This week on the podcast, we hang out with the Warrens, maybe one more time, with The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Dissect That Film Podcast, where we dissect the good, the bad, and the ugly of your favorite films and film franchises. I am your host, Brett Parker. Joining me, as always, my wonderful co-host, Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming.
Hello.
And joining us, once again, it has been way too long. He is one of the hosts of Nostalgiacast. We have Darin Lundberg. Welcome back.
Hey, the last time was the dinosaur one, right? Like that.
Yes. I think, and to be honest, that's one of those episodes that I actually remember what number it is. Episode 72. That was the last time you were on the show, and we are now.
Because that's how many hours it was.
Yeah, pretty much. And this is episode 125. So it's been a long time. It's been 50 plus episodes, and it's been way too long to get you back on. But you know what? You're part of the show almost every week because you're always leaving comments. You're always, sharing your thoughts on the movies that we cover. So you're always a part of the show, even if you're not here talking with us.
I cannot resist. You guys are irresistible.
We love all of your support, Darin, and we're so happy that you're here. And before we get into anything with this movie, why don't you tell us about yourself and your podcast?
Okay, well, you said before I'm the co-host of Nostalgiacast. Like we mentioned last time, we just take movies. We used to take movies from the 80s that we were kids when we were watching. Then we decided that was pointless. And then we started watching more movies that we're still nostalgic about, but that we can actually get excited about. We just finished our season on 90s Palooza, where we tackled a bunch of 90s movies. Stuff like Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump and Men in Black and Terminator 2. Just all these movies that were so much part of our... Johnny and I like to say a lot that the 90s is when we cut our teeth. That's when we became friends. It's when we became film fanatics. And so just being able to dive back into those movies was just... and not having enough to say as instead of trying to force ourselves to come up with things to say. We had to figure out ways to shut up. So we just finished that up. And then I think we're addicted to 90s stuff. So we're going to keep going back. We might try volume 2 of 90s Palooza. And then just a little bit of a spoiler. Well, not really a spoiler because we gave it away in our final episode. But I think we're going to start covering some 70s movies. Just try to tackle that decade of just films that defined not just us, but like cinema, I would say. A lot of 70s movies did that. So we're excited to dive back into there. So that's what we're up to.
It has been a journey going through all of your 90s Palooza stuff. But Men in Black, of course, is a movie that is near and dear to my heart. We've covered it on our show. Yep. And listening to your episode, I can't remember what your guest's name was.
The Lady Wan, yeah.
The Lady Wan, that's right. I know the Lady Wan. I've heard her on your show. I've heard her on Binge Movies a bunch of times, and she's great guest. And to hear her love for the movie and your love for the movie, it was great. So make sure you check out Nostalgiacast and listen to Darin and his co-host talk some movies.
Yeah, please do.
So, Darin, you're here to talk with us about the third Conjuring film. The Conjuring...
The best one, right? Right? This is the best one. Yeah, okay, good. Why else would you have me on for any other one, right?
Did we watch the same movie?
This is...
I don't know. It had demons in it. Is this the only one with demons in it? I don't know.
I think so. The other ones were nice, cheery, like just, little... Casper type ghosts.
Yeah, it was like drama. It was just a family, cute little family ghost movie. Yeah. And this one is like when it got serious. The final.
Yeah, this is one that's most like a Law and Order episode. I think that's the ones that was missing from that's what was for the first two. And so this one just really nailed that, I thought. It's hard to keep a straight face. Anyway,
we've changed
thought
the
you were
format.
Serious this whole time,
No.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so we've changed the format a little bit on the show where in the beginning I totally fail at it almost every time, but we try to just talk about our first experiences with the movie, not really giving our thoughts on the movie until the very end after we go through the entire plot and all that. So, Darin, what was your first experience with this movie?
Well, I think we talked before. I'm a big fan of this franchise, just because. Well, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit, but I'm not a big gore person. Like, I'm more of a story person. So, and no offense to anybody that likes these movies, but like Friday the 13th and things like that don't really engage me because there's no story. It's just kill, kill, kill. Like what goes on in Jason's head, right? So again, no offense, but those don't do anything for me. I need something like, something that engages my brain with the narrative and character stuff like that. So, and again, I'm not trying to sound like a prude because I love stuff like The Fly, the Cronenberg Fly. I love stuff like any zombie movie. You need those effects in there, like the gore effects and the faces ripped off, that kind of thing. So I'm not against that stuff. I'm just rather be engaged by something. So The Conjuring I loved, and the second Conjuring I loved because they're just spooky haunted house movies. They're scare machines, and they're really, really good at it. It's hard, especially watching this one. It's hard to do. I realize it's hard to make an efficient scare machine, something that just jumps out and goes boo at you, right? So we saw the first two in the theaters, and it kind of blends together because it was the same experience. My wife, she must have jumped out of her seat maybe 20 times for both movies. It was just great. And we went with an audience, and they were just, you know how it is when you go to these movies that are just audience crowd pleasers, and especially a horror movie where you're just so giddy about stuff. And it just played so well both times. And then I don't know what happened. Like, I heard they're making a third one, and then I think COVID hit because this was released.
I think this is released in September of 2020, and it got pushed to June.
To a summer movie, right? Yep. Which is an interesting choice. But anyway, so when they did that, I think they released it in the theaters and then on HBO Max for like a month, just a month exclusive thing, which is weird. So for whatever reason, I think because, we don't want to go to a theater with just 3 people. Like, what's the fun of that? So we just didn't get around to seeing it in the theater. And then the reviews were not that great of the third one. And so I just didn't. I mean, you know me, guys. I still haven't watched a lot of the MCU stuff yet, just because I haven't gotten around to it. I have other things to do. So we just didn't watch the third one until it came out I think when it came out on digital, we watched it. And I don't know if it's because we watched it at home that the effect was lessened, but I didn't jump once. Like, this movie didn't scare me once. And so I engage still, and again, we'll talk about it. I engage with the character stuff. But as far as the scares, this one's just, if the first two are master classes and jumping out and scaring you, this one's just average, like anybody can do this type of thing. So it was fine. We're not going to get into like me shouting about it like we did with Jurassic World, anything like that. I'm not that upset about it because the stuff that works still works. But as a scare machine, I just don't think this is up to snuff. And so it was a disappointing. And then I watched it the second time today and it was fine, but still didn't scare me. And again, it was probably because I watched it during the daytime that it had a lessened effect. But yeah, so not a huge, giant, life-changing experience with this movie as much as the first two.
All right. Dan, Angela, this was your first time with this, right? Yep. Oh, wait, actually, every single movie in this franchise has been a first time for you. So
that's right.
That is true.
So I haven't listened to the Nun and the Annabelle. Angela, have you recorded yourself like watching these movies? I think that was, you talked about that.
No.
That would be great. That'd be something I would totally watch. All right.
We won't go there.
Just wanted to know. Sorry.
It was originally the plan, but I don't think it.
It was originally to record this one.
Yeah. Okay.
And I have a few on there. He's like, "You ain't gonna get anything out of me," and I'm like, "Well, fuck.
Well, this isn't fun.
You ruined that for me." And then there was a couple of scares in a few of them where I said a couple choice words. So it would have been more funny recording me.
But you are going to record your reaction videos to the Mary-Kate and Ashley movies, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
This is compelling.
Yeah.
I'll record myself watching those movies.
I won't take my eyes off of it.
Be an experience. So how was your first experience with this movie?
It was kind of eventful here because, our daughter's been pretty like on here. In every movie she comes around, she's like, "What are they doing? Why are they doing that?" Today she he had to leave for a little bit, and
We stopped the movie.
we stopped the movie so he could go pick up our oldest, and she kept asking me questions like, what's this movie about? So I kept telling her things about it, and she's like, I'm gonna sit at the table with my my headphones on, so she didn't have to hear anything. Like, she was eating her dinner, and she's just like, but she was still, even with her headphones on, she's like,
oh yeah,
she'd take a bite and she'd look, and it was kind of crazy for her actually leaving the room for a good majority of it. She remembered like character names and what happened to them. Like, she was so worried about David in the end.
Huh.
She's like, is he okay? Like, he's fine.
The character that you see mostly in the beginning of this movie and then don't see.
Well, that's really all she really paid attention to until the end. She did not like the opening scene with David. Like, she's like, if that happens again, she's like, I'm done. That's it. And she goes, that's it.
Leaves.
Like, it's okay. It's not gonna.
I brought her on here.
I don't think it's gonna happen again. But yeah, so it was really interesting with that, like, answering questions for what she was asking, and then at the end she knew something bad was coming, so she went and crawled in his lap and was like cuddling up to him and like had her hand up like this, like,
it's like, watch it, you coward. No, I didn't do that.
I told her, I'm like, you do not have to watch this. You can leave. I'm not forcing you to be here.
She was courageous.
But she has told us before that she's not scared of anything until people start getting hurt.
Yeah, she doesn't care for people getting hurt.
Like, once David started screaming, she was just like, she like slowly walked out of the room, but she was still watching it. I was like, she's coming back.
So she's very empathetic, it sounds like. That's great.
Oh gosh, yes. Anytime anybody screams when they're hurt, she starts crying herself. She's like, she doesn't want them to be hurt. I'm like, it's just a movie. It's okay.
That's what we want out of horror movies, though, I think, right? I mean, everything is fine and fancy until people we care about start getting affected by it. So that's, she's got a good foot forward there, I think. Already.
But like, my parents always gave me that line, like, don't worry, it's just a movie. So I started adding more to it. I'm like, don't worry, it's just a movie. They just try to make it look as real as possible.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, to add that extra context.
She said something, because she kept bringing up the shower scene. She's like, that's fake. She's like, other things in this. She was pointing out other things. She's like, that's real, but that shower scene was fake. It's like, okay, you keep
She's so brave.
you keep thinking that.
Good.
Until it happens to you. No, the shower scene won't.
Oh man,
Kids.
I love kids' reactions to horror movies.
And she's only 7, so it's like, it's really weird for her to actually be this
engaged.
Yeah.
Like, wanting to watch it. Not necessarily engaged, but actually, like, not forcing herself to watch it, but not backing down because she's not scared of anything.
Yeah. She's figuring it out, sounds like. That's awesome.
She is. She's more curious than the other two. Like,
Victor's like, whatever.
Yeah,
Ridley's
he's just like meh. Ridley is the one that takes everything literally. Like, if he knows that it couldn't happen, it doesn't affect him, and he doesn't care.
He's our Drax the Destroyer.
He's
He'll go over. Don't
He
tell him
catch
to go
it.
over his head. He'll
Catch
catch
it.
it. Yeah, 100%.
yeah. He's like, that can't happen.
Yeah.
But he's also the one that if you tell him to get ready for bed, he's like, earlier, he's like, it's only 8:26, and I'm like, go brush your teeth.
Anyway,
it's 4 minutes till bedtime.
Oh, kids!
I know, I love our kids, but sometimes there's like kids being kids.
Yep.
Anyways, I will stop.
I don't know. You were telling how the kids like. I was curious about your experience. That's fine.
That's how I experienced it, was through her, because she was so like. I just have choice.
That's fair.
I have other choice words to say, so
no, that's fair.
We'll leave those for later.
Okay, that's fair. It was a Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening that I started watching this, and Angela was eating chicken fried rice, and I was eating pizza crust. So take from that what you will.
Okay, good start.
Well, yeah, right. It's about
him and his stories.
My son eats a pizza.
So there I was.
Crust, like, don't waste it. I'll eat it. Anywho, I was actually a little more engaged in this one for like what was going on with the story, because since this is, I know we'll talk about it in a minute, based on true events. Mm-hmm. So like I was engaged on that kind of stuff and what was going on in it, but I don't think the viewing experience was that much different than anything. I will side with what Darin said here. It's not very scary. I didn't really get a scene, even for like, you know, I'm kind of trying to half disengage myself from it because I don't, as we talked about, I don't like these movies that much. But there wasn't really anything that really like.
I even tried.
It seemed really telegraphed.
Yeah, I've got an interesting theory for why it didn't scare me at all, and we'll talk about it. It just seemed like kind of the same scare over and over again. But we'll definitely talk about why
it was fine, and they felt like, at least I respect this, but they tried to do something different than the previous two Conjuring movies. But we'll get into that when we talk about it. So.
Parker, your turn.
So,
tell us what your kids thought.
My kids, none of my kids watch this. My son, my oldest, constantly just tells me that horror is awful, and it kills me a little bit inside. My first experience with this movie was when it came out on Max for that month, during when it was released in theaters and then on Max, and I watched it because I'm a huge fan of I was a huge fan of the Conjuring films. I wasn't as everyone knows now. A lot of these movies are first time watches going through the series, but it just, I mean, nothing really to say other than it doesn't have that impact. It just didn't have the impact as the other two. And I don't want to get too, because my issue is I get too far into trying to tell you my first time experience or my experience with this movie, and it turns into me telling you what I thought of the movie. So I'm just going to leave it at that. My wife watched it. She fell asleep about halfway through.
Ooh,
and
that's a sign.
I don't know if she was just exhausted, which that's probably what it was. But also the fact is just not a lot of jumpy stuff, which I think got her in a lot of these Conjuring universe movies. A lot of the Conjuring, like a lot of the Annabelle movies, just jump scares. The Nun, jump scares. La Llorona, even though we've talked about what we feel about that movie, they had some decent jump scares. This movie just didn't do that. And as much as I don't think a horror movie needs to have jump scares to be an effective horror movie, like give us something. Give us something to kind of keep us engaged, because I feel like this is a movie that the story is interesting. The case behind this whole thing is very interesting to me, but I just feel like they focused on something that just was so weak that that main part of the story just wasn't as interesting anymore, and you just didn't really care how it ended. But we'll get to more about that as we go through the plot, and then we'll I'll give you my thoughts once we get to the end. So let's talk about some behind the scenes and stuff. Go ahead there. Go ahead.
No, I wanted to ask you guys a question, because I haven't bothered with, like I said, it takes a special skill, I think, to pull off a haunted house jump scare movie, right? So I haven't bothered with the Annabelles or the Nuns because they just look kind of generic and just jump out and boot. So is that the case? Do you guys agree with? I haven't listened to those episodes yet, and I apologize. But as far as comparing them, like, how do you guys compare the Conjurings, the James Wan movies, to these other generic kind of spin-offs? How do they stack up for you? And is the Conjuring 3 more like those than it is like the first?
I believe so. I think the Warrens are still very interesting, and I think they're the reason why this movie doesn't completely fail for me. Watching Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga on screen as the Warrens is magic. Like, I think they are perfect in these roles. They do a great job, even if they're not given really the best material to work with. And I think that was their problem here, where in the first two, I think, for one, this movie has different writers than the first two Conjuring. We don't have James Wan as the director, which I think that could have maybe been a factor. I think just the way that James Wan shoots films and the way that just it looked was more interesting. the way that the characters were written, especially the people that you're not just the Warrens, but all the side characters, like the people that they're dealing with throughout the movie, just are more interesting in those first two movies, where this one is just, to be honest, a lot of them are forgettable. And a lot of the times you'll see a character and you'll hear his name. And then later on, when you see that character, you've already forgotten their name because they're that uninteresting.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, okay, what was his name again? And then they don't say it. And I had to look it up just to figure out who this person was. I mean, I remember seeing them before and I remember what they did, but they were just, that's the biggest issue for me. It's just there was not a lot of interesting characters in this. The Warrens were. That was it.
Yeah, they didn't screw that up.
Yeah.
As far as your question about the other ones, real quick, it's just a spoiler if you don't want to go back and watch them. I thought the second Annabelle was the closest we got to any of them being truly good.
Yes.
I thought it was a decent movie. We rated it where we rated it in our list. And there was a really strong opening to the first one, I thought. But for the most part, it's just sub-tier as far as that goes. I think, like you said, the Conjuring movies are definitely the main ones to look out for. So
I think another issue, and we've mentioned it in other episodes, the fact that a lot of these movies are prequels, and I think that's a huge issue with this franchise. Is The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2, and even this one, they're not these are sequential. These are, you meet the characters in The Conjuring. It's 1971. Then you meet them again in The Conjuring 2. That's 1977. And now in this one, it's like 1981 or whatever. And so you're seeing them in different points of time, but it's not like you're not seeing a prequel film about the Warrens where they had The Conjuring 2. You had Valak, which is I think a very interesting villain. I like the nun and everything, but then you watch the nun and you already know what that character's all about. You already know the type of scares that character does. And I feel like the nun didn't create anything new for that character, and you were just getting a regurgitated storyline, which then became boring, in my opinion.
I know, but like was that I enjoyed the nun, but I will say it's definitely.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, this is just from my point of view.
Yeah,
that's just what I feel is the biggest problem with this franchise. Is there's too many prequels, and prequels can work, but you have to make those characters do more and be more interesting.
And stop making prequels to prequels.
Yeah.
Stop. This fucking franchise does it too. And I'm like, guys, we got the backstory. We don't need. Here's the backstory, but don't forget about this. And I'm like, guys, it's okay.
We don't need that.
We don't.
Well, I haven't heard that the Nun or the Annabelles are terrible. So I'm not saying that. I just avoided them because, again, The Conjuring, the first two, they feel special to me. There's having the Warrens and having, being a family man, that gets to me. Those first two, right? And this one does it too, to a sense. But it just seems like with the Nun and Annabelles, it's like, they're prequels, which is a problem because first of all, I don't like horror sequels because it dilutes the scariness of the characters. Like Michael Myers, like you make him, he's after his family, and so you're like, well, then I don't have to worry about anything. As long as I'm not friends with the Strodes, I don't have to deal with it. It's not scary, right? It's that kind. Jason is the same thing over and over and over. So it gets less and less scary. And then Freddy, notoriously, he's a child molester / murderer, and they made him the hero of the franchise because that's the hero of the franchise, where you're rooting for him to kill kids, right? I mean, that's so strange. So so that's the thing. But with those movies, I don't think that they'll be bad. I think they'll be enjoyable. I have a hard time going into a movie if I know I'm not going to be engaged by it as much as, I don't know if that makes, I don't have time for like pointless stuff. I need to I need to have my brain work. I think we explained that with Jurassic World quite a bit, but I guess that's just my problem with those. I just haven't made time for them because they don't seem as special. Not that they're bad, just that they're not quite up to that same level. It's what it sounds like you guys are saying.
Yeah, it's, for me, I think it's as you go along, like I feel in The Conjuring, you have Bathsheba, who's the main villain or the main spirit or demon of that story, and you don't see her a lot. You see, and when you do see her, she's very impactful. Or you have the scene on the stairs with the clap. Like that is impactful. That's how these movies should be. When you get to movies like The Nun, again, I'm going to refer back to The Nun, and I'll talk about La Llorona, even though technically, in my eyes, we did include it in the Conjuring universe because I think that they technically consider it because the priest from Annabelle is in it, and he talks about Annabelle. So it's like, well, now it's part of the universe. But the biggest issue is like they show the demon way too much. In The Nun and in La Llorona, you see them way too much. And after a while, you're just overstimulated by this character, and it doesn't have that same impact anymore. You're like, oh, well, there she is again. Oh, there she is again. Oh, like leave them in the shadows. Leave them doing this. Like there are a couple scenes in La Llorona that actually play really well. That actually I missed one where there's a character going up the stairs trying to doesn't realize there's anything going on, but like the ghost or spirit is like in the shadows, which is like a cool shot. Yeah. But then, no joke, a minute later you see her like 10 times, like in different shots, and you're just like, oh, okay, all right, I'm over this.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
Let's say at least for Annabelle though, because you do mention this, I think it's at least worth watching the first two, and this is relevant because this is technically the last one we're covering until The Nun hits streaming services. So I feel this is a good time to talk about a broad perspective. Mm-hmm. But you don't get the joy of the elevator scene if you don't watch the original Annabelle, and then the stair lift scene in the second Annabelle movie, which is very equivalent, and it's really good, and it's really well shot, and it's good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know if we'll get to Conjuring 3 eventually, but
we'll get there.
This is what we do.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember The Ring. Like the great thing about The Ring remake is that it's not scary in the moment while you're watching it, but for me and my wife, like when it was our first son, and we'd have to wake up in the middle of the night and rock into sleep, and we were just imagining the closet door in his room opening. So we're like, boy, that movie really got to us, right? Yeah. But there's a few shots in that first Ring where they show just a quick, brief flash of the people's faces, the corpses, right? And it's terrifying because you're like, what the hell was that? Like, it doesn't give you a shot. But then in the second Ring, there's a part where the Naomi Watts character happens upon a character in a Jeep or a car, and the camera like stays on that face, like in the background for like a full 2 minutes. And it's like, well, now I know that it's makeup and this is no longer scary. You know what I mean? So showing the creature, the scare, I think Bathsheba and Valak, I think they're effective, like Parker, like you're saying, and like Dan and you were saying, because they give you enough that you get the gist of them, the impact of them, but they don't overstay their welcome to the point where, oh, this isn't scary anymore. Kind of like in Jeepers Creepers, where it shows up and, oh, this is just a dude in a fright mask. It's like, I'm not scared of this anymore. It's not terrible because it's not otherworldly. I can get a sense of it. And I think that's the difference in a lot of horror. But again, the first two Conjurings, I don't think they're breaking barriers. There's nothing. They're just the poltergeists. They're poltergeists done in the 2000s, right? But it's the characters that I'm engaged with, and I'm like, oh, this is what I want out of a horror movie, not just the well-defined scares. And James, those first two movies are loaded with just superior, fantastic sequences, like the hide and clap sequence, where you're just on edge, but you're giddy. I don't know if that makes sense, because you're having so much fun being scared by the filmmakers who are having fun scaring you. It's just it's a push-pull, and I think that's the tough thing to do with horror. And it just seems like the Nun and the Annabelles, which would be fine. It just seems like they're just into scary and not really to get to that extra level. They're just the in-between stuff, what it seems like.
I wasn't giddy with the hide and clap scene. I was like grabbing a hold of my chair because I'm like, she's gonna fall down those stairs.
It's the worst game ever. Whose idea was that?
I've fallen downstairs. It's not fun.
No.
If you're lucky you were in a horror movie, you'd be fucking dead.
Yeah.
So you just die when you hit the bottom step. Like, oh god.
I mean, I thought I was about to.
Effective.
Right. Yes.
So, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, was directed by Michael Chaves, who we talked about in The Curse of La Llorona. He was the director of that. And he is also the director of The Nun 2, which just came out in theaters. Well, when you guys are hearing this a few weeks ago. The
Russo brothers of the Conjuring franchise is what it feels like.
They I feel like a lot of it's funny because like The Curse of La Llorona is like the bottom of our rankings in this franchise. And the fact that they brought him back for this, maybe it's just like, hey, maybe you could do it again. Maybe we can get some magic here. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying this guy's a bad director, but I just don't see his track. Like clearly, I mean, I don't know how.
He's no James Wan.
No, I mean the thing is James Wan writes most of these movies. Like he is a writer for most of the movies in this franchise. So I don't know what's going on, especially in this tail end of this franchise, but it just seems it's just getting messier and messier, and hopefully it gets better. But I think that's
comes home.
Well, I think that's the biggest problem is just we're so far into this franchise. Like I think it's just maybe it's getting dry, but it's like it's the paranormal. How dry could it be? And also technically, the Warrens did so many cases. You could talk about the Warrens for the next 20 years.
You have a whole franchise in that basement. There's a whole franchise of movies that you could do, just limitless.
Yeah, and they tried to fit it all in one movie.
I want to know what those little toy soldiers did.
Yes, and the horn.
And the horn.
The fucking
so
horn.
Much fun stuff in there.
Like,
seriously,
dude, I need just a movie on that stuff.
But then they focus on stuff like the Annabelle doll and just the stuff that we've already seen. It's like there's pick anything out of that room.
Yeah.
Yes. Anything else.
Our writer on this one was David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick. His first writing credit was on a movie we have covered on the show, Orphan, back in 2009. He also wrote the sequel to Clash of the Titans, Wrath of the Titans in 2012. He wrote The Conjuring 2 with James Wan, also wrote Aquaman and Orphan First Kill and the newest Aquaman, and he's writing the next Conjuring movie. So he's got a lot of bangers under his belt there.
Damn. Okay.
Oh man. The
next Conjuring movie, they're in space. I just want to throw that out there. Please.
It is the fourth. Hey, it is going to be the fourth one. So that's usually how
we need that to happen.
You have to.
You think of like Leprechaun. The story was also done by James Wan and David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick. Oh my Lord, that's a name. We have Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson back as the Warrens, which, as we stated already, they're the best part of this movie. They're just their chemistry is so great. They feel like an actual married couple, and they portray a very fictional version of these real people so well.
Yeah, it's fucking disgusting. It's disgusting. Nobody's like that in real life. Nobody.
Yeah, it's not like we have healthy relationships. Yeah, it's weird.
No,
that made me think of it. So my daughter's in there, and it's at the very end, and when.
Oh, I had already done this before.
Okay, yes, but Ed and Lorraine do that kiss, whatever at the end, whatever. It's not a fucking spoiler, all right? Shocker. And I just cover her. I was like, you can't see this. Like, married people don't actually kiss one another. Like, I'm literally telling her this. Like, it's fucking great.
Anytime that couples do anything, whether it be a hug, kiss, go further, he's like, married people don't do that. I'm like, sure, we don't.
No,
We have I'm gonna totally butcher this actor's name because it's an Irish name, and I can't find a pronunciation on it, so I'm gonna try my best. Ruari O'Connor. He's the one who plays Arnie.
Sounds good.
I just completely fucked that name. I apologize. Wow. We have Sarah Catherine Hook as Debbie Glatzel, Julian Hilliard as David Glatzel. He is a Haunting of Hill House alum as well. We talked about one last week, and we got another one this week. John Noble as Kastner, Eugenie Bondurant as the occultist, as she is, I guess, called in this movie. Shannon.
What the fuck are these people?
She was in.
Just kidding. I have seen some of these people.
Well, she was in Hunger Games.
Yeah.
So you know John Noble. He was in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
He played Denethor. And he was in the show Fringe. He was in the TV show of Sleepy Hollow, which was actually a pretty fun show to watch. I watched it for a little bit. And he was the voice of the Scarecrow in Batman Arkham Knight.
I told you that.
Well, yeah, but
his voice is awesome. His voice is very iconic.
I just want to put, because we're talking about Scarecrow, and this is probably never going to get brought up again. But Batman the Animated Series, not the first one, but the one that came after the New Adventures of Batman and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
The same truth. It was all Bruce Timm shit, right?
Yeah.
The dude who voiced the Scarecrow in that, which is one of the best Scarecrow designs ever, mind you. It was, I can't think of his name. He played the main character in Reanimator.
Oh, Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs is
Absolutely.
Just to bring that whole little connection right.
I need to play that one for you. He did a really
I'm sure he did. Good job. That's just the one I was not aware of him in that movie.
That's who I remember because I've played the games. So.
That makes sense.
We need more Jeffrey Combs in movies.
Yeah, we do. I think I know John Noble. John Noble, am I getting that right? Mm-hmm. I think I know him from Elementary, that Sherlock Holmes one.
Yeah.
He played Sherlock Holmes' dad, so that I know him from that most of all. So
we have Shannon Cook as Drew. Which one was Drew?
He's their assistant.
Oh, he was in the first Conjuring.
Yeah, and the second one. He's in the second one too. He's their main guy.
And Ronnie Jean Blevins as Bruno, who was the landlord. And I just want to mention that Sterling Jarens is back as Judy Warren. She played Judy Warren in the first Conjuring.
Yeah,
and
I don't remember seeing her. Where the fuck was she?
She's in the beginning at the hospital. Yeah, she's at the hospital by her dad's side.
Yeah. When we were conversing on where was she, and I said I read her sweatshirt.
Okay.
Well, she's in the second one too. I thought that was neat. Like they kept the same actress all through to kind of show her growth. And I watched it this time. I was like, oh yeah, she's an adult. That's great.
Yeah.
That they had her in.
Well, when we talked about Annabelle Comes Home, Judy is in the movie, but she's played by a different actress because that movie takes place before the first Conjuring.
Okay, so
don't watch it.
Yeah.
All right.
No, just skip it, please. Listen to our episode though, but just skip it.
Yeah,
I'll do that. That'll be more entertaining.
And we have Steve Coulter back as Father Gordon, who has been in every Conjuring movie and was in Annabelle Comes Home. So, and in Annabelle Comes Home, he looked a little bit more awake in this movie than he did in Annabelle.
Yeah,
Comes
dude,
Home.
I was like, the dude's acting.
That was our gripe with him in the last one. Was that he literally looked like he was given a paycheck, and he just was like, "I'm not giving you 100%. I'm just going to read my lines and go home."
Oh, what's this movie? This is a Conjuring movie? I'm awake. I'm awake with this.
Yes. Oh, it has Conjuring in the title. Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I got to put it all in there. So this movie was originally just going to be called The Conjuring 3, but because of the subject matter, they changed it to The Devil Made Me Do It, which was the name of the case, which had to do with Arnie Johnson. It was called The Devil Made Me Do It case, which took place in Connecticut back in November of 1981.
Is that the first American case of them trying to use demonic possession as a defense?
Yes.
Okay. First American. Okay.
And they changed the names of some of the landlord's actual name was Alan Bono, where I think his name is Bruno in this or something like that.
Yeah, we don't talk about Bruno, remember?
But this case has been out there for years. I think there was an episode of a show on Discovery Channel back in 2006, which talked about this case. Mostly it was the possession of David, the little boy from the beginning. And they didn't really mention much about Arnie, but then they did do another documentary on the case. And the family came out, especially David himself and one of his brothers, who's not even in this movie, came out and sued the Warrens. They tried to discredit the Warrens, calling them frauds and all that stuff, because they were using David's mental illness, which is what the family thought he actually had. It said they didn't believe it was an actual possession. It was a whole thing. Look it up. There's probably a bunch of stuff on the internet you can read up. I don't want to go too deep into it because that's not really what we do here, but I figured I'd mention a little bit about it. The Warrens, up until Lorraine's death in 2019, pretty much stated, nope, everything that happened in this, or pretty much everything that you see in this movie, even though she wasn't alive, but everything that was talked about actually happened. So,
of course.
Yes.
Well, of course. They couldn't discredit themselves.
No.
But I do want to
show them into the very end.
So the whole events of the day are also different from from all the eyewitness accounts based than what we see in the movie. So in the movie, which we'll mention it again when we get through the plot, but I figured I'd mention it now. In the movie, he of course is possessed, and then he ends up his landlord's being annoying, but he sees the demon and then attacks it thinking he's killing this demon, but he actually is just stabbing his landlord.
We've seen that before.
Actuality, it was somewhat similar, but I guess there was a lot more people there because, like in this, it was Arnie, his girlfriend, and the landlord. Where I guess it was her sister was there, or his sister was there, and I think one of her other brothers was like there at the time, so they were able to give accounts of like what happened. He ended up stabbing him like in the movie. I think it was like 22 times, but I guess in reality it was like 2 or 3 times, but it was in very dangerous spots, which caused him to bleed out very quickly. So that's ultimately the slight difference between the real event and the movie, but we'll talk a little bit more about that once we get through the plot. Are we ready to talk about the plot?
Maybe. Are you guys?
I don't know. Let's do this though.
Is this a plot?
Allegedly,
yeah.
So this movie,
based on true event.
Yeah, that's how they always got to get the whole thing where you get the breakdown, because this movie starts with you going through this house and it looks like a velociraptor got loose in there and was just clawing up the place. We got Darin here, so we have to reference some Jurassic Park world thing. But yeah, it's the house is not looking so good, and we get a little boy getting an exorcism done on him. He is all sweaty, looking like a mess. And we meet Arnie, who you find out is the sister's boyfriend. And Father Gordon's there. Hey, he's back, guys.
Hey. Look at this guy. He's doing stuff.
He's Gatorated up.
Yeah, he is.
So when we get in there, it's kind of like the tail end of this one session, I'm guessing. I don't know what they consider it. Is it an exorcism session? But they're done with it for now. They're taking a break. David goes upstairs to sleep, and the demon or whatever is possessing him is taunting him. He's hearing noises coming from the bathroom. He goes into the bathroom and he gets into the shower. The shower turns on. It's blood. And then you see, but a little bit before that, you see the hand coming over the shower curtain.
This whole first part of this, there's just the little things that I love. And that's one
I thought that the first sequence I think works best. What I liked about it is they're treating it very mundane, like we've seen it before. Like the first shot of Ed and Lorraine we get, they're wearing bifocals, and like Ed just looks over and goes, "Jeff, should we take a break? Yeah, let's take a break." And so it's very run of the mill. What I thought was interesting is they walk off, and then Lorraine gives him a drink. It's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, I've never seen anything quite like this. Which what they're doing is they're getting into our brains that, oh, this exorcism is mundane because we've seen these before. We've seen the first 2 movies, right? We know how it's going to work. But the fact that Ed says, I've never experienced anything like this, it gets the hairs on the back of our neck going because we're like, ooh, what's this going to lead? The problem, I think, with that is it's telling us this is going to be different from anything we've seen. But then everything that happens after the scene, we've seen in maybe 1,000 movies. Like everything that happens, we've seen happen. And I think it unfairly raises the stakes for us, and then it doesn't deliver on what makes this such a different case. But I also wonder when he says, I've never experienced anything quite like this, do you guys think Ed is maybe feeling the oncoming onset of the heart attack that he's about to have?
Maybe. Because he seems like something's off by him.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Moving slower.
The way they're doing the case, though, is he says that, but it doesn't fit, like you said, with what's going on. Because he's like, let's just take a break. Like, if this was, like, serious shit, it wouldn't be like, all right, guys, halftime, 15 minutes, let's get Gatorades and shit. None of that stuff. Like, it just doesn't feel like that line should never have been mentioned.
Yeah.
He maybe even said, like, he's just feeling rough or tired, but don't mention it's nothing, like, I don't know. It just doesn't set it up properly.
I think he's trying to make it seem like he's feeling less worse than he actually is, so he needs the break. So he's trying to make it seem like this is a bigger deal than
it actually is.
That line literally. You go ahead. Sorry, Angela. Go ahead.
Well, because a lot of times when people have heart attacks, they feel that sluggish feeling. So
they can't put their finger on it, right? Like,
he knows something's wrong, but he doesn't. I feel he doesn't want to admit it. He's a male. No offense to any males. My dad was the worst for admitting when something was wrong. And don't want to go see the doctor. Don't want to,
I think a lot. I think for most men, it's that whole like just the mentality of like, I got to be tough. I got to show my toughness. And it's just like, no, if there's something majorly wrong with you, you need to get checked out. It doesn't make you less of a man, or, you know, less of a strong person if you gotta seek help.
I just feel like he's just downplaying how he's feeling. So he's just kind of putting it off on everybody else.
See, this whole movie, like, in order for me to appreciate it, I had to approach it from the Warren. Again, when we say the Warrens, like, these are movie characters. I don't think of these people as the real people, right? Yeah. I think you guys mentioned, and I didn't realize this, Ed had like an affair with like a 15-year-old girl or something.
So
Parker, is that what you
allegedly? So I watched a couple videos of like, you know, true crime people who looked deep into the Warrens' history, and that was one of them. And that's why I stated it was alleged. I'm not saying it actually happened. It's just, but yeah, it was supposedly he had an affair with like a 15 she started at 15 and she lived in their house for like 20 years or more.
Yeah, interesting.
So
they're not perfect by any means, the real people, right? But I think the movie versions, they're a Hollywoodized, and I think they do it on purpose. Like, in order to juxtapose it with the horror and the terror and the evil, you want to have a couple who's the epitome of goodness. Mm-hmm. And I think Farmiga and Wilson nailed that. And so, like I said, these are movie characters that I love. When people say that the Warrens are pieces of shit, sure, but these are different than the real life people. Yeah. So I have to get that out of the way first, is I think these are movie characters. They're not the actual Warrens, but as a paragon of goodness, they need that, right? And so I needed to focus on the movie. I needed it to be from a character point of view because the scares weren't working. So yeah, you guys talking about the heart attack, I think that works from a character point of view as opposed to just a scare point of view, because that line is totally unfair, because the rest of the movie, from a horror perspective, it does not live up to that line of this one is different. And then when it says like, this is the most terrifying case of their careers, I'm like, really? Really? This is the most you know what I mean? It's unfair. It doesn't. The rest of the movie doesn't live up to that line if we're looking at it from a horror perspective, not from the character's perspective.
Yeah. Yes. They share in name only.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Especially when you say that, like, the most terrifying case they've ever done, it's like it downplays the impact of those first two Conjuring movies, because it's like, I don't know about this. I don't know. You're setting up something that you're probably not going to be able to achieve, and it's kind of disappointing.
Well, you want to raise the stakes every sequel, right? You don't want it to level out, and I think that's what you want to do. But the problem is, it just doesn't. As a movie, it doesn't hit those heights, and so that's why we look back in the first. Those were scarier than this. I don't know what you're talking about. So.
Yeah,
and it also downplays the one case that they took that scarred her so bad.
Yeah. Why would it?
Yeah. So, like, what is that? Chopped liver? Like, is that's like down here? No, that's like what made this explode. Yeah. Like,
and from a character's point of view, if you look at it as this is the case that we almost lost Ed. Lorraine almost lost Ed. That I can see as this is the worst case of their careers, right? But not the most terrifying case.
Yeah. No. So he's dealing with all these events in his bathroom. He becomes like he's possessed again. He stabs his dad. He is wrestled back downstairs to the kitchen table, tells Father Gordon, we got to do this thing.
Ooh.
And
the whole scene of him going down the stairs, though.
Yes.
And like
the scratches. And
he's
stuff.
Not even touching the wall. Yeah. And it's just like the scratches are happening.
Effective. That first sequence. Yeah, works so well. Good. Works so well. Yeah.
And you can also see the strain in Ed's face. Like, you can tell like something is going to happen probably.
Yeah.
Because like when every time he gets to a certain point, he is like restrained, like he is restricted from moving because the demon is preventing him from going down the stairs. And it's such a great sequence.
Well, this is what I love about you guys is and sorry to keep interrupting, but we'll get to it. But what I love about you guys is, I can look at a movie and have opinions, but you guys, the way what we're talking, it's inspiring me to think about more stuff and more stuff. Oh, that means this, that means that. What's great, and not to jump ahead, but you juxtapose this beginning with the scratches on the wall and him yanking to a part of the end where a character is grabbing a rock and hitting another character on the head, where there's such a difference in stakes and in scares between this beginning and the ending that it's amazing. It's incredible how much of a disparity there is.
Yeah, like you start up here and you end down here. Like,
it
shouldn't be that first drop on a roller coaster and then end and then be.
I mean, that's the thing is a lot of movies in this franchise do that. There's a lot of these movies that we have put in the lower end of our rankings that start off with some really good sequences in the beginning, and then they just don't know where to go. And then by the time you get to the end, you're just like, did anything happen in this movie? And that's not the question I want to ask when we get to the end of any movie. Did anything
and it's sad
happen?
comparing this one to the first two in that way.
Yeah.
Because the first two, I think, the emotions and the characters get stronger as the movie goes. So we're more invested, I think, in those first two than we are here.
Yep.
So yeah, they do the exorcism. You get to see some cool contortion. You know, the kids like doing
that's cool.
Oh, yeah. Always good.
Twisting up. And this is when Father Gordon gets knocked out because clearly there's a big dust storm. That's what demons could do. They can conjure dust storms in houses.
Have some plates. Fine china.
It's not even the fact that it's throwing things across the house. There's dust there's sand. It's like they're in the middle of a desert. It's just sand flying everywhere.
These Glatzels need to dust. They need to dust every once in a while. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem.
That's what I said. It makes
Clean your damn house.
It makes you wonder if their house is just that dirty.
It's all coming from the crawl space.
Dude.
They deserve this.
Dude. In my line of work, I could tell you a lot about how dust travels inside walls, but we're not getting into that shit today.
Ooh, I could show you the bottom shelves of all of the store. It's nasty. What gets generated by people.
No. That's because your HVAC system pressurizes, and it pressurizes your walls, and that causes soil filtration. I'm not getting into that. It's my work shit. But
these demons are smart, man. They're smart.
If there's dust in this house, I can get it out of the walls. Damn it.
So the demon, still in the child, jumps on Ed and says, "I can stop your heart, old man." And then that's when he hits him. And that's when Ed starts having the heart attack, but they finally are able. Then that's when Arnie comes over, grabs David, and is telling the demon to take him instead, which I guess from reports, that's actually what happened. Not the Ed heart attack thing, but the fact that Arnie grabbed David and they witnessed him yelling at David to take him, the demon to take him.
Well, when they're on the table, Ed says that. Don't talk to it.
Yes.
Like, don't address it.
These kids don't know how to listen in these movies.
Yeah,
do what you're told.
I think I don't think Arnie does it because he's not listening. I think Arnie was doing it because he cares for David a lot.
But he still told him twice not to talk to it.
It doesn't matter. Arnie wanted to help David. I think that's the whole thing. He just didn't care.
He caused.
It's the Harrison Ford and the Fugitive thing. Instead of just running a little to the right, you have to keep running forward to escape the train. You know what I mean? Yep. You're not thinking in the moment about that.
Oh, yes. God, I can't wait to cover The Fugitive. That movie's great. Yeah. So, yeah, Ed almost dies. He gets sent to the hospital, having a heart attack. We get to see Judy again, and he's intubated, and, it's sad. Arnie, we then are with Arnie and his girlfriend. What's his girlfriend's name again? Debbie?
Debbie
is
Arnie's girlfriend.
Yeah, David's sister. Yeah.
David's sister, whatever name we want to call her, it don't matter.
So
women don't matter in these things.
So they live above a kennel, which I guess Debbie works at, and the landlord is also the owner of the kennel, and his name is Bruno. And
he sucks.
Yeah, I don't like this character at all. Oh, God.
You didn't get stabbed enough.
I don't think, listen, yes. I don't know what they're doing to this Camaro in this front yard, but this motherfucker should not be up on blocks or whatever they're doing. Like, this movie takes place in 1981, and there's another huge inconsistency I'm going to point out here in a few minutes. But that Camaro, I was like looking at it, I was like, that's way too fucking new for that to be sitting like that in that front yard. But anyway.
I mean, look at the.
Well, maybe that's where they invented the Camaro.
I mean, look at the person that possibly owns it. He probably was out driving drunk.
He probably was.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem with Bruno is he pressures people into things, and it's obnoxious, and that's why I hate this character, because like when David's leaving, or not David, when Arnie's leaving, he's like, hey, Arnie, just getting in his face. He's like touching him and stuff. Like, what the fuck is this?
Arnie, come hang out with me. Come listen to music. Fix my radio. Let's have some drinks.
Stereo. Yeah.
Let's do some drugs.
He won't let Debbie
Give me some space.
Let's go suck some dick, Arnie. It'd be great. It'd be fun. Try some stuff out.
No, because
do it with me so your wife doesn't think I'm gay or something. Well, I know, but he says that drink with me so your wife doesn't think I'm an alcoholic or something. Like I was like, dude, what the fuck, man? Or girlfriend, sorry.
She's trying to. Where is she trying to go? And he's like, I'm letting you stay here for free.
I don't know
because she's supposed to be running the kennel. And I'm like, she's
gotta get away from Bruno. Just
like,
every
dude,
now and then.
she's just trying to go to the grocery store. Like she's coming back.
I need some snacks, man.
Calm down, man.
Like she can't go far.
I need some Doritos. I want some Doritos. Can we have some Doritos?
Chill.
We have Doritos upstairs.
Chill or I'll stab you 22 times.
Yeah.
So they go to Debbie's house, back to the house where the exorcism happened. What, yesterday? 2 days ago?
I don't know.
There's no time between these. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it happened yesterday, and everybody's just back to normal again.
Everybody's like, the kid's fine. Everything's normal.
Because Arnie says something about David being out of the woods, and I'm like, gosh, how long ago did this happen?
Right.
I feel like it was like 12 hours, and that was it.
I do appreciate though when he goes in the house to fetch the plate of ham or whatever he was getting, you could still see the claw marks. Some of the claw marks in the wall, and I was like, I'm glad we didn't just ignore that. The set designer was like, no, we got to have the claw marks. We can't make this look like it happened a year ago. Claw marks don't fix
themselves, guys.
No.
Yeah.
But
it'd be really cool if claw marks were relevant later in the movie too.
But this is a scene that just annoys me because it's one of those scenes that has to just go for so long, I feel like just a pad. And he's in there, he sees the cereal get tipped over, crashes on the floor. He goes in there, nothing's there. Then he goes into the dark hallway, and
it's just a rat.
No, it was a rat that come out of the cereal.
Just a rat.
That's right. But so he follows the rat, but then he sees this dark hallway. He goes there, and then he sees a hole in the wall, and he slowly just looks in there. God, we could have shaved a good 3 minutes out of this scene if we just got to the point.
God, when did this glory hole get here? And he like peeks in. I was like, dude, no.
Yeah.
How tall is that guy? How tall do you have to be for that?
I know. I was like, Ray,
why is the use of a step ladder required for
Yes.
this glory hole? Like, this is an extra step that it doesn't need.
I feel bad for the rat.
Who invited Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
I know, right?
Or what's the really tall Asian guy that plays basketball?
Yao Ming.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yao Ming.
It's him.
Yeah. Well, I said Kareem because he played basketball in the 80s. So
I'm just saying he'd be tall.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So he looks in the hole, and then he turns around and gets attacked by this crusty woman, and it scares the shit out of him.
I 100% thought it was a fucking man. Like, look at this man here. Like,
no.
Sorry, man. Sir, I mean, ma'am. Oh, God.
It's better than a squirt of cum coming through that hole, I think. I would rather.
Dude, oh, my God. Oh, dude. I just got a visual.
Same.
That's scary.
Like, as soon as he said it, I was like, oh, shit.
Well, I also forgot to mention the fact that during the exorcism, Lorraine is having visions about somebody lighting candles and doing some sort of ritual. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing
I don't think it's white stuff in a cup. These are rats. It's
all I can imagine is white stuff. Yeah. So here's my problem with the scene is that this scene, like I was saying, it's one scare that they do over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I think that's why it's not scary. This is exactly what it does. And again, my wife was watching with me and she fell asleep on the couch. And when she woke up, she thought it was skipping around because there was no sound for a little bit. She thought I was skipping and got to a certain part. But this is what happens. Like, something will happen. Somebody will sense something. The sound will drain out of the movie. It'll go silent. You'll have a shot. Like, again, he looks at the glory hole or whatever, or it's something else where you see something in the background and the camera will move and then it'll move back. And then there'll be something there that wasn't there in the shot before, right? And then there'll be a loud screech on the soundtrack. And that happens again. And that's the only scare that this movie has. It does it over and over. And I think that's why it didn't scare me, because there's a certain point where, like, I can guess exactly where the beats are, where the scare is going to come. And so you're ahead of the movie. It doesn't alter its format. It doesn't change its aesthetic. It keeps it the same thing. Like I don't know what it is. Are we stupid, or is that all that the director can do? I don't know. Do you guys agree with that? That just seemed like that's the only trick it had up its sleeve for the whole rest of the movie.
This is just going to go back to franchise fatigue that we've talked about. Like they just try to churn these out year after year, and I just don't think they have enough time to put in think of creative shit to happen in these movies. And it's just
you look at. I compared this to when we talked about Jurassic World. I compared the raptors in the kitchen scene in that one to the raptors in the kitchen scene in Jurassic Park. And you're looking, one's directed by a master and the other's directed by this hot-headed college kid that thinks he can do the same thing without the talent. It's that, right?
Right.
But if you compare any of these scares to even in Conjuring 2, where Lorraine encounters Valak, right? She sees them in the room. It does the same thing where you see the painting on the background, like she turns the light on or whatever, and that's a good scare. And the camera moves away. And when it moves back, your brain is like, there's something that's going to be there when it goes back. But it happens like 2 or 3 times. And nothing happens, and then you're disarmed because you're like, well, you're on edge because the movie's like jerking you around. It's not giving you what you expect. And then Lorraine turns and she sees the shadow of Parker, like you're talking about, moving across the wall, right, to the painting, and then you see the hands come out, and then the picture it runs at her. It's a completely different scare than what you're being set up for. So it's effective. And James Wan is such a good horror director. He's improved so, again, he did Saw, which is fine, but I think he keeps getting better at directing, and he's more skilled and he's improving. So I just like that there's so much fun and so much joy in those sequences, and it's never the same thing over and over and over again. And that's what keeps you on edge. It's not just the characters, it's that we don't see the scares coming, even though in retrospect we really should have. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's nothing in this that breaks rules, like I said, but it just does it so well that it feels like, again, it feels fun because you're involved in those kind of things. And this is a movie that just has no tricks up its sleeve. And so you're trying to find something to latch onto. And luckily, like we'll talk about, you have the Warrens in it.
I feel that because like the whole, going back to the whole scene with, him looking through the glory hole, whatever.
That's what it's going to be called.
Listen, dude, there's so much shit that's come up in this. You're talking about glory holes. You talk about a movie's jerking people around. Like, I wish a movie would jerk me around a little bit.
I really need to make the comments.
Come on, Marvel.
We need to write down the comments that we make during these, because I forget what we say. We really do it MST3K style while we're watching stuff. And sometimes we'll make a comment and the kids are like, huh? And I'm like, just don't worry about it. Just, you'll learn when you're older. But I got myself so worked up when he's looking in, the darkness that I didn't even get scared when he turned around, because I had already been like, well, nothing's happening. That happens. I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. Like, you could have cut this whole minute of him, literally a minute of him staring at this. I'm like, what is he staring at?
It's because they got to drag out the suspense. They try to, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And, some of these movies have done those false jump scares where they set you up for something. You're sitting there for like 20, 25 seconds, just like, what's going to happen? And then nothing happens.
I got more scared by the rat running out of the cereal box.
I just want to know what kind of cereal it was.
I think it was Fruit Loops or something like that.
No, they were circular, but they were colored. I was like Trix or something, but Trix is usually the shapes, isn't it?
Fruit Loops? No, Trix is not.
No, not like circular donut, but like orb, spherical.
Oh, yeah, Trix are like that.
Before they did, because I remember they had the fruit shaped.
But I don't know when Trix came out. Just
Dan, they're for kids. Yeah, I was gonna say they're for kids.
I know that's what
it's generic, non-branded cereal that we don't have to pay any any companies for. That's the kind of cereal that it is.
And that's what we need to look into. So we then see Arnie. He works for like a tree company. He's chopping down some branches, and he's not looking so hot. He's sweating, pale as hell.
He is pale.
Yeah, and you see the woman kind of show up in the window, and when Arnie turns to look, she's gone. And then he ends up dropping the chainsaw almost on one of his coworkers.
That got me. I'm afraid of chainsaws because I'm positive. Yeah. I'm sure that I'm going to cut a limb off when I start one of those up. So I'm already on edge with him now. And then when it just starts up, I was like, oh, all right, that got me. But that's just because I'm afraid of chainsaws. It's not anything.
I was waiting for him to hit somebody with it. Like he's going to stab himself, cut his leg off or something.
He was going to cut a branch off, and it was going to fall on somebody.
Yeah.
Or he's going to cut the branch that he's attached to.
So he goes home. And this is when we are back at the hospital. Ed wakes up. He tells Lorraine that it's got Arnie. And of course, like, you got to have the whole thing where she's like, oh, no, it's fine. I don't, everybody's okay. Blah, blah, blah. He's like, no, it went into Arnie. And so Lorraine,
he's got the kid.
Yeah. And Lorraine's got to call around trying to find where Arnie is to kind of warn them about what's going on. But no one picks up because it's loud, because Arnie comes home from work. He ends up, and he is fucking in horrible shape, but he ends up fixing Bruno's stereo, and Bruno's like trying to force beers on him. And he's like falling over.
Like opens like, you want a beer? Boom! Foams everywhere. Like, that's half the drink.
All over the speaker of the stereo system he just fixed. Yes, get beer all over it. Cool.
What an asshole.
This guy, I can't stand this character. He sucks. And Lorraine then can't get a hold of Arnie or Debbie, so she calls the police, and like, what her thing is, oh, so we think this guy is possessed by a demon, and they're just like, okay. Oh no, she states that something's gonna happen at the whatever the name of the kennel was, and so they're like, all right, whatever.
Like the one phone call in Killer Clowns from Outer Space. they call him, and he's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's that dickhead cop. Yeah. You're just playing tricks on me again.
Yeah.
So the demon is messing with Arnie. He's, putting visions into him about, like, there's the one where Bruno and Debbie are getting really close and intimate with each other while they're dancing, but then it flashes to what's actually happening, and Debbie's kind of scared because she doesn't want to dance with Bruno, but she sees that Arnie's all fucked up. And
at one point they're like together dancing, and it cuts. They're like not even near one another. They're like apart.
No, because that's what I'm saying. It's the vision then going into reality.
Yeah.
So
the jealousy.
And of course, we see then Bruno kind of transforms into this tall demon and attacks. And so Arnie is like being very defensive, getting Debbie out of there, and forces her out. He falls down inside the kennel, and he's waiting for this demon to come around the corner, which I thought this was a pretty good shot of.
I like how it shot the dark whole stuff.
You're expecting something to come around the corner, and it just goes into the shadow, and then it comes out and attacks him, and then of course
in the lower part of the screen.
Yeah. Yep. And
I just like. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying he's able to grab his knife and just start stabbing, and you don't see it happening. It pans out from the house, and you just hear Debbie going, "Arnie, stop!
Yeah, and
I was expecting it to be her.
Right. That's what we talked about. Like, she fucking iced both of them. But this whole thing, we were watching it, and I just, like you said, I kind of just like how it was shot, because we've seen how these demons have had different effects on people, just even if you just count the Conjuring movies, but not really to this extent that I recall. Like, this dude looks like he's tripping the fuck out on something, like crazy intense. Like, the room's getting dark, colors are changing. There's that bright red coming from the window, and everything else is around. It's dark, and
I don't like the whole red thing. It feels too comic booky.
Oh, I don't disagree.
Like cartoony.
But that's why I mentioned the psychedelics. But I'm just saying, like, it's different than what we've got, because usually the demons just possess people, and the possessed people kill people. It's not like where it fucks with somebody's reality and makes them kill other people. You don't really see that as much, I don't think, at least not from this perspective.
It almost feels like he's fighting it. Like he has seen what's happened, but he's like, he knows that he's been possessed because he asked it to happen. So he's kind of trying to fight it.
Yeah.
Whereas some people don't know that it's happened. Like when it's possessed kids. So it's like they don't have much to fight with because their mental capacity is much lower than adults.
Yeah.
So I felt like it had to fight harder against him.
The two things I'll mention here, and again, that's cool, Dan, that you're saying it, because it's effectively shot. And Parker, you said, like, that's nice to scare it. You don't expect it to come from the bottom of the thing, right? I think this is the last sequence in the movie that engaged me in any way. I like that it. Again, we're kind of questioning, like, what time is it? Because Ed's still in bed, he's still in a coma or whatever, or he's still under, but the possession is okay, like the exorcism, like David's all right. So we're questioning that. But I like the format of it, about how we can sense we know that something's gonna happen with Arnie, right? But then when Ed wakes up, he's like, no, you got to get on the phone. So, and because he saw it, right? And so I like that juxtaposition. I thought that was effective of building to that, but also the fact that in that kennel, there's the dogs that are yelling. There's also, it's so cluttered and it's so claustrophobic, and Dan, like you said, he spills beer everywhere, and it's so loud. And then he's sick or something, where he imagines, again, when you're jealous, you imagine stuff like that, even though it's so. Yeah. I wouldn't even pin something like that on the sickness. It's just all this external barrage of stuff that's happening to him. It's affecting him. I just think, for me, it might have been a little better if you didn't show Bruno changing into the demon. Like, again, we question, is it a heart attack or is it an exorcism like we've never seen? I would have liked the idea, maybe better of it. Like, it's just, is it in his brain or is it a possession? You know what I mean? Yeah, they question you from the visuals. Instead of, it flat out shows you, there's no question that it's the demon, right? And so I think that's effective, but I also think that's Chaves, is that how you pronounce the director's last name, right? I think that's his problem. He goes for the easy scares. He goes for the easy things instead of challenging you. Because again, I don't know if he knows how to do that, right? And so that's the problem between this movie and the first two, is he doesn't have James Wan's intuitive, how far to stretch out his scene, how to do the colors, how to make it dark, how to make some things unseen, right? I don't think he has those chops. But again, what I love about these Conjuring movies, and Parker, you just said it, and you guys talked about it, it cuts away. You don't see the murder. You see him stab him kind of once, but it's fast, like in Psycho, right? You kind of get a gist of it. And you don't know, did he kill Debbie? It kind of hints at this stuff. But that's another thing, and I mentioned this on your first Conjuring thing, is what I loved about their first Conjuring is the story about how they shot for a PG or a PG-13, and the tone that Wan got was so terrifying that when the MPAA got to it, they were like, "Oh, we can't rate this a PG. You've created an atmosphere that's too heavy for a PG." And so Wan was like, "Well, what do I cut out? There's no language, there's no sex, there's no violence, and we don't know what to cut. You can't cut anything out. We have to release it with an R." And that excited me because, to me, the scariest movie that I've ever seen is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one, because they don't show you any violence. But when you remember that movie, you remember it being violent and gory because they shoot it in a way, Tobe Hooper shot it in a way that makes your brain imagine. And it's so much more disturbing than seeing it actually happen. Yeah. Which I think is a problem with the remake. And so that's what I love about this Conjuring 2, there's no language, there's no sex, there's no graphic violence. It's mostly hinting at stuff. And to me, it's scarier because I'm imagining what this stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah. So for Chaves to actually show me this stuff and, this is what's happening, and leave me no room for mental processing, I think that's the main difference and the problem I have with him versus Wan directing. But yeah, I think this is the last section of the whole movie that I thought was engaging on a structural level.
So Arnie is walking down the street covered in blood, and the cop shows up, and I do like the whole thing of when you're possessed, you got the glassy eyes, you got the veins kind of coming out, but as soon as the cop shows up, it all goes away.
Yeah.
So it just looks like he killed someone. So we then are in the prison, or at least where he's being kept, and Ed and Lorraine are there interviewing him and pretty much stating he's not possessed anymore. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. He's like, well, he was able to read from the Bible, and we have all these things that should have triggered this demon, but clearly there's nothing there. I love was this the priest who was leaning against the wall, kind of listening to everything? Was that the same priest we see later in the prison?
Who hands the guy on suicide watch a glass bottle? What the hell, man?
Yeah.
Right?
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's the same guy.
Yeah.
Idiot.
So pretty much it's this whole thing of, we got to prove that he was possessed at the time that he committed the murder. And so they visit his lawyer, and Ed and Lorraine are trying to convince her to use demonic possession as a defense, which has never been done before. And Ed's like, well, I think we can convince you to do this if you come to our house and walk around our museum, which you never get to see, by the way. It's just, they just,
it's hard cuts. Yeah, we're scared out of her mind.
Yeah, and she's just terrified in the courtroom, and she
get
makes
an
the
Annabelle
call.
Name drop.
Yep.
What do you guys think of that? That was the first instance of stuff that I was like, don't do that. Like later they go, oh, look what we got from the Perones. Like it's guys,
the parents, yeah.
You don't need to do that. I know that they exist, right? So what do you? When they mentioned Annabelle, I was like, you don't. I know that Annabelle. I'm not an idiot. Like, what do you? This is not. You know what? Do you guys? Did you like that, or when they would drop stuff?
No,
I didn't like that.
I didn't think it needed to be mentioned by name. Like the fact that he goes, "Hey, we'll introduce you to Annabelle," and it's like, did we have to say that? Just come to the museum. That's all you got to tell them.
Yeah, exactly.
We would think Annabelle. Yeah.
We introduce you to our special.
It's like we've watched 3 movies with her name on it. Plus, she's another movie. It's like we're good. Yeah. We don't need her anymore.
It's lazy.
So yeah, we get to the courtroom. She's terrified. She makes the call, not guilty by demonic possession or whatever. And of course, after this is done, she comes out and talks to the Warrens later and is like, "Well, now they're going to push for the death penalty." I'm like, what? I mean, I don't understand law and I don't understand how that all works, but maybe it was because of how malicious it was, but like the death penalty on one guy, isn't that usually, I mean, like I said, I don't understand how that all works.
What was the name of the, from the Amityville Horror? What was the name of the guy what was the main guy?
Oh God, Ronnie DeFeo.
He, again, I think the case was he went to the police saying a hitman killed my family, and then it was proved that it wasn't. So he was like, "Oh, I was possessed," because that defense didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. And then later when he's in prison, he's like, "Oh, I was actually married to somebody, and I was with a friend, and both of them could corroborate stuff." And it's like, but the friend you're talking about never existed. Mm-hmm. The woman you're talking about was married at the time, living in some other county. So I don't know if that kind of ties it. Like the courts are like aware of this stuff. It's like, oh, this is a malicious murder, and he's trying to demonic possession. Like he's obviously trying. I don't know if that ties in or that has anything to do with it. Well, I thought it was interesting because this is a famous case where they tried to make, like we talked about, the first demonic. But the movie is not about that at all. I thought that would have been more interesting if they tried to. How impactful was this on the judicial system? But they don't. It's kind of like just a throwaway line. They don't concentrate it at all. It becomes, again, a generic movie instead of trying to do something a little bit more.
Oh, I agree. I just feel, you use that title, "The Devil Made Me Do It," which is the name of this case, because that's pretty much what he states. And then we kind of venture off into this. We're trying to figure out why this is all happening, but it just kind of, it goes off into a weird direction where at points you don't even feel like they connect. You're like, oh yeah, they're trying to prove that this kid was possessed by it. Oh, okay, now we see it because they show a scene with him and he's going through some shit. But then you go back to them investigating this witch, and and at moments you're just like, what's happening again? Like, where are we? Like, where is this the same movie? What are we doing?
We've lost the thread.
This is my big complaint, and Angela will point out because this is the exact scene. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is, I may have pooched it on the Maverick thing, but I'm not pooching it on this thing.
Oh.
When they went to court, it was 1981, and I'm dying on this fucking hill. And in the front of the courthouse is a Ford LTD, not the big ones. They made a small one. I owned one. They only made it from 83 to 86. And this was an 81. The earliest that car would have existed was an 82, so they fucked it up.
I think they're doing this, Dan, just so people like you can feel alive.
I do.
And he does that. He cannot tell you what color a car was, but he can tell you what make and model it is.
See, I don't remember what color this car was, but the only reason I know was
I didn't know the car existed.
I seen it on the outside. Well, yeah, but I owned it.
In the movie,
yeah,
you pointed it out.
I looked at it, I was like, the only reason I knew it is because I had one. I was like, I know those taillights. I owned that car. And I was like, wait a minute, this isn't right. Because that's just how I am.
He had to look at his watch.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
He's like, what year did this trial take place?
I did. And I was like, wait a minute. And
I'm like, I don't know what it says.
I see they pop up what time the actual courtroom thing is.
It's all in 1991.
Yeah. But anyway, yes. I'm just going to say yes to what all you guys were saying.
Well, I don't know how not how easy it was to make it not a thing, but like to put it into trial as mental.
Like a mental because of mental illness.
Like mental illness. Like they probably could have gotten him off easier as saying, oh, he had a mental illness, as opposed to demonic possession. Because, like, who's going to believe that?
Well, yeah, but was that really? But this was in 1981. Was the mental illness claim that?
But supposedly his brother, I'm pretty sure it was his brother, if I read correctly, said that he had something mentally wrong.
That's very possible. I'm just saying, like, at this time, though, was that defense? Because I know we hear about nowadays.
Demonic possession
I really think it has something to do with the Warrens being showmen, right? They wanted attention and they got it for making it demonic. I think that's what it was. They saw this as a way to get their name in the spotlight, an additional way. And I think that's why they made such a big deal out of it.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of
they don't care about the people. In real life, it seems they don't care about they just care about making a name for themselves by doing it.
I just felt like they did him dirty with that.
Yeah. The movie does not justify it at all, right?
But I also feel like if they would have pursued the mental illness, that he probably would not be out.
Yeah,
he would probably be in a mental facility. Yeah.
So, of course, Ed and Lorraine have to investigate. They got to prove, that Arnie was possessed during the whole thing. So they go back to the Galatzel's house and they talk to, of course, Debbie's there helping them out. They go into the room that supposedly David first encountered the demon. And the waterbed scene. Which is
cool.
Which was a good shot. I like that whole that sequence. I thought it was played out pretty well, and because I think this actor does a really good job at showing fear, like that he was terrified. Because he gets, you get the whole thing where he's on the bed. You see the kind of the dead body float up. He doesn't realize it's there, but then he feels something, so he gets off, and then the hand comes out, grabs him, and he fights for a while. Like I remember seeing this movie, but I always thought that he gets sucked into the bed, like Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street. Just I said, see you later. And of course, he's all soaking wet. His parents come in, and it's one of those things. It's like, what did the parents think? What did the parents think happened? That he was just fooling around and he just accidentally popped the bed?
Is that the last time we see the parents even? Like, where do they go for the rest of the movie? I don't think
they're
they
gone.
exist.
Well, I mean, and this is a flashback too, so this is even before everything we see in the beginning of this movie. And
I remember seeing the dad outside when he got stabbed in the thigh. Like that was like,
yeah, they were there, but then where did they go?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, the funniest thing is this kid's screaming, and no one hears him. But it's also it pops into my head every time, because we've talked about it many times on a lot of these episodes. It's like the demons can kind of fuck with reality, and so like you could be screaming, but no one hears you because they're messing with the plane of reality, and they want to make sure no one finds out.
Pocket dimension.
Yeah, and so. They're trying to figure out, what happened where was the waterbed? It was here. They look under, there's like the stain, but I guess Ed realizes it's not a water stain, that it's actually caused by something else. So Lorraine goes into the most terrifying crawl space, which I would have been like, nah, I'm good. Can we get some dusters? Can I get at least these cobwebs out of here before I crawl through this hole?
Did you guys notice? We talked about it before about how like you're a man and you don't want to admit that something's wrong, right? I like the thing that really hooked me for this movie is every time you see something between Farmiga and Wilson, some connection that between them. Like the first time we see it is when they're asking what's going to happen to Ed after he's had the heart attack, right? And the doctor doesn't know. And she gets a look on her face that just speaks volumes for what her world would be and how much she loves him and how much her world would shatter without him. And yeah, we have the first two movies to go on. But even if we didn't have that, I think Farmiga's acting at that point sells you on the relationship, right? Mm-hmm. You cut to this part, and Ed's around, but he has to hobble on a cane. He's not allowed to do things. His heart's still weak. You look on his face as you realize she's going to have to go down because he can't, and he's worried. He doesn't want her to go down there. And yeah, it's a man thing, but when he says, I don't want you to go down there, she rolls her eyes like she's incapable of this stuff. Like, I can do this stuff too, right?
Yeah.
But I thought the line was funny when she goes, just hold my purse.
Yeah.
Okay, you little bitch.
She inadvertently emasculate. I don't think she did it on purpose. Like, she's just hold my purse. But from a screenwriting perspective, you're like, oh, that's funny because it's saying she's doing the man's work. So again, every time there was a connection, I would latch onto that and go, okay, I'm reinvested because they're getting the characters right. The scares aren't working, but the Warren relationship is really doing it for me. So that was, and I'll mention a few others as they.
Yeah, I mean, anytime they're doing anything, keeps me engaged because they're such engaging characters.
Yeah, because I said she's like, hold my beer.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty
doing
much.
this.
It's funny. It was a funny one.
Yes, I love it.
Because you even have the moment where she's under the crawl space and she sees the rats and she screams. And he's like, Lorraine, are you okay? And she's like, it was just a rat, Ed.
A rat.
Shut up.
But she sees that all these rats are like conjugating in this one area, and it's directly under that stain. And she finds this totem, this satanic totem, which when they bring it back and talk to Father Gordon, he figures out that that someone has set a curse on the family.
Mm-hmm.
And so he recommends they talk to Father Kasner, who was a former priest who, like, you know, lives down by the river, you know, as Chris Farley once said.
In a van.
This is the first instance I wrote down. This is the first instance where it's a Law and Order episode, where it's about the gathering of like the father goes, "Oh, here's a guy that I know that you can go and interview," and so they do that. And they like again a Law and Order. All it's missing is the gung gung when they show up at Casper's
I was about
house.
to say, I was waiting for that. I'm like,
someone please recut this movie as a Law and Order episode, and every time we go to a different location, it's like dong dong location, because I want to know where they are. Is this Connecticut still? I don't know.
Why not, right?
It's New England, somewhere in New England.
Yeah.
It looks like my backyard. Whatever. So they go. So I guess he's somebody who discovered the secrets behind the Disciples of the Ram, who I guess were.
It doesn't matter.
They're a band. It's fine.
No, well, it links with Annabelle, because that was the group that Annabelle Higgins was a part of, which then set up Annabelle the doll.
Those damn Rams.
Yeah.
I know. What the fuck, dude? St. Louis, get your ass out of here, man.
Oh, I was going to say.
What are you talking about? They're LA now.
Oh, that's right. Fuck. I'm dated.
I got you.
I said too much Dodge, not enough Ram.
Something like that. Fucking Ram. Dude, stop that. Also, fuck you too, Mopar. Get rid of the damn Ram brand. It was stupid as shit. Make them Dodge pickups again. God. Jeez, it was so dumb.
Nothing to do with this movie right now.
Well, you want to start making connections to
I love our tangents.
Thorn.
They're the best.
The later Halloween movies into this shit.
Oh my gosh.
You see this tattoo?
Hell.
He's going to end up muting all of us, and he's just going to keep talking, and we're going to try and talk, and he's just going to be like...
Yes. Yes, I'm going to start that now, Angela. 125 episodes in. This is when I start muting you and keep going.
Do it.
Here's my shot.
Mute this one.
Do it.
Do it.
Just do it.
So they go to visit Father Kasner, and he shows off his cool room of all the goodies that he's gotten from investigating or being a part of the cult of Ram and looking into everything that's going on.
That's a nice juxtaposition to the Warrens.
Yeah.
What they're doing, right? Their museum, right? I like how Lorraine says you need to burn this stuff, right?
Well, she's like, I don't want to go down there. That was like her first thing. Yeah.
The Kastner says, I'm just keeping this. It's kind of like keeping guns out of the hands of off the streets, right? Keeping that. So he's doing the exact same thing that they're doing, right? I just think that and again, this goes back to the difference between Juan and Chaves. The way that this whole, even when they're on the porch, it's shot all in shadows, and it's paced and it's lit in such a way that you're on edge. And I'm like, what? The thing with the first two Conjurings is Juan was able to shoot it, so a lot of the normalcy, when you all of a sudden a horror comes up, then all of a sudden you can sense a change. Something's different. When you do this whole movie in those dark shadows, even on a porch, I think you're really overplaying your hand. It's too much. It doesn't. That's what I'm talking. It doesn't give you the room to figure it out for yourself. It's telling you that something is creepy to the point where it kind of tips its hand that we're going to come back here, just like a Law and Order episode where we come back and we visit, again, a suspect that we've already chatted with. It's just, it's a little too obvious, I think, for me, the filmmaking here. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
No, I mean, I kind of agree. And you're not the first person to mention the fact that it kind of feels like a Law and Order episode or multiple Law and Order episodes where it's just like, yeah, we're just kind of jumping from place to place a lot, where we're not kind of focusing a lot in one location. We're kind of here.
That's a part of the dullness.
Then we're here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about
more like a TV show.
Yeah, and I think that's why the first two worked so well. Was we were pretty much in one core location. I mean, The Conjuring 2 jump between like the Warrens and then the house over in Enfield. Mm-hmm. But the Warrens weren't involved for a lot of that Enfield stuff until like you get to the end of the movie when they are there to investigate. But this one is like, yeah, they're in this location, then they're in this location, and then they're back at this location. And yeah. So
got the Law and Order theme stuck.
I know I've had it since you guys brought the shit up.
I also hate how it keeps cutting to because they did it in the first two where we cut to like the demon doing something. We wouldn't know what was going on. But the little the thing that she's doing, it keeps cutting away to her like her procedure, whatever the word is, like the little things she's doing with and it was like, I've seen this in so many movies. Why are we doing this? You know what I mean? It's just I don't know.
It's showing her doing the same thing in her ritual. It's like
rituals.
Thing.
That's what I'm looking for.
She's lighting the candle. She's adding things to this cup.
Yeah, it's tired. Yeah.
So of course Ed and Lorraine are like, we need to stop this, witch who's controlling this. And he's like, well, it may cost you everything to do it. And they're like, okay, we got this mission accepted.
We're tough as shit. Don't worry about us, Chief.
Mission impossible.
So this is when the witch activates the demon, and I think this is this what happened? Is this the one where he's like mopping up the infirmary, and he starts and he sees something in the corner, and
the fact that you just said she activates the demon, just
why? I just thought of like switch. Yeah, you flip up the protective cover, and then you push the toggle up. Demon activated.
Got it. Yeah. So what?
She did
what lazy ass screenplay.
She did what Hocus Pocus did. Okay, they let the candle sit there just free.
I said she's got to stop lighting the damn black candles. Just saying.
She got a bunch of them on sale at Home Goods.
Is she a virgin? Probably not.
I don't think. Dude, listen. I'm not going to make a joke about that. I'm just going to involve cobwebs and a really dry corridor. Is all I'm going to say.
The fun thing is that I know exactly where Dan's brain goes.
That is probably where all the dust came from.
What's it so dusty in here? Well, Derek, if you just did it once in a while, it wouldn't be so dusty.
We just went up to our glory hole metaphor. That's the next step up. That's great.
Kids used to make fun of her when she was little, call her like Dirt Devil.
Oh no.
Okay, so we're back with
the
dust
Warrens. Go there, Dan? Does dust go there? Is that where dust
That's
can
where
go?
it comes from.
That's where it comes from.
This is when we get the parent shout out because we needed it for no reason. Like, look what the parents sent us, some flowers. Like, why? Why did we know that they were there?
They're doing okay, guys. They're good. They're good.
Yeah, they're all right, guys. They moved out of that house, I think. And everything's fine. So now it's time to go to Danvers, Mass. Because and they actually show that they're going to Danvers. I was like, wow, why don't we get any other locations? Yeah. So they meet a cop who talks about a girl and her friend that disappear.
This could take him out of the movie. All of this.
The friend is found dead with 22 stab wounds, and the other one is just gone. And they're like, oh, it's just like, the situation we're dealing with. Mm. And they are like, oh yeah, this totem was found under the house of the girl Jessica. I think Jessica was the one who stabbed her friend. The actress who played Jessica, who was Ingrid Bisu, who played, who'd she play in The Nun?
Sister Oana.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Okay. So Lorraine also has to prove her powers. You get that whole thing where it's like, she's not a sideshow, and he's like, Ed, shut up. It's fine. I'll just do this real quick. She does it really fast, proving to the guy that she's magical. And so they then have a conversation in the car about Elvis. I like the whole thing. It's like, have you ever met Elvis? Yeah, I met him alive, and I've met him, after.
Here's what's great. And again, Dan's going to go, because this really they tangentially try to tie it in. So it gives you an excuse to do this whole finding this is they're solving a case like in a Law and Order episode. But I like the part how like she's not a sideshow. And then Lorraine's like, this is it. This is the one. Yeah. Like let's get all this from like, and the cop's like, okay. And then they're in the car and he's like, that was a 1 in 3 chance, right? You could have done that. Yeah. And it cuts to Ed in the back smiling. That was the first nice thing. And then when they have the conversation about Elvis and she says, like, was that before or after? She said, before and after. And then it cuts to a shot of Ed just charmed by his wife. He just enjoys her and enjoys her sense of humor. And that's every time it would have one of those moments, it would just nail me back in. Like, oh yes, I love these characters and I'm involved. That was another thing. Even in interview room, you see Ed take charge, and there's a shot of Lorraine where you could tell she's proud of her husband for being a take charge guy. Yeah, there's just a quick shot of it. So there's a lot of that back and forth.
And it's not that I feel like this is a bad scene, because there's things I like about it. Like you talked about the car ride, and there's a few things that happened during this, but it felt like you said, this was another scene that just felt like a lot of padding that probably could have been condensed, even though I don't think it was shot and executed poorly.
Yeah, exactly.
These movies don't always need to be 2 hours, an hour and 52 minutes, and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me.
You could have simply had the investigator go, sure, I'll take you. And then that's it. You could have done that. It's just a little bit of a character build. So I absolutely agree with you. It's kind of padding, but I wouldn't trade it because of that. You know, the scene in the car I think was worth it.
Yeah. So, because it's these two very interesting characters. Mm-hmm. As we've stated many times.
I absolutely get your misgivings, and you said too, there's nice parts in it. So yeah, perfect way to describe it.
So before we hop back into the woods, we're back with David and Debbie. They're visiting Arnie at the prison, and David kind of talks about his experience being possessed and like what he remembers himself going through. And literally Arnie's like, yep, cool. That's pretty much everything that's happening to me now.
Right.
'Cause again, he's just white as a ghost. He's just looks like he's been through, he's been pounded into the dirt pretty much. And, he's going through it. So we then go back to the woods where Lorraine they're trying to find Jessica. So they go to the location of where her friend was found. And I like the whole fact that like she has to point that out. Like, oh, you already passed it. You gotta go there.
Your turn.
Yeah, you missed a road. I missed a turn.
He's like,
and the investigate. The cop is like weirded out. It's like, okay,
okay.
That was a fun touch.
So she then goes into this vision, like she is able to like kind of put herself in the situation between Jessica and her friend, and she sees how they're really good friends. They have like the cool friends bracelets and everything, and then she just out of nowhere stabs her friend.
Yeah,
and then
as you do.
Yeah, yeah. And it then goes from Jessica to Lorraine acting out the stabbings to the point where it gets to be so much that Ed's like, okay, that's enough. Like, we got to stop this. But then she just starts running. She just starts running away, goes through the woods, and then stops right as she's about to fall off a cliff. And then, to be honest, my problem with this was the fact that this demon hand grabs her to drag her off the cliff. I wish she just slipped and started to fall off.
Where did the demon come? Was it the same? Was it the curse that was doing that to her?
That makes sense though. They weren't like directly connected yet.
No.
Yeah,
it was a scare. This happened because I missed the whole.
And it wasn't even scary.
Yeah, it wasn't.
No.
I was like, my favorite part about this whole scene is I blank his name because I can't think of it. The guy who played Ed.
Wilson. Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson. His physical acting when he's like dying, trying to keep up with his wife, fucking sweating bullets. Like, oh god. Yeah. Like,
but we know why he's chasing after her, right? And we know why we know he's not going to stop. It's all in their performances, and it's all in the right. Again, the thing that works the only thing that works brilliantly in this movie is their relationship and all those things. I like when they have at the paramedic, and the paramedic says we found a body, but he gives the paramedic, she gives him a pill, whatever, and he goes, "Oh, I have these. I left them at home." And Farmiga, Lorraine, shoots him a shot that I recognize. Like my wife gives me that look all the time of like, "Are you an idiot? Like what? You forgot that?" So again, such a good throwaway moment that I don't even know was in the script. It was probably Farmiga and Wilson just planned this whole thing out to make that work.
Well,
I
always find it funny that the paramedic was like, "Don't do that again. Don't do that anymore."
Yeah,
yeah.
She. I feel the paramedic was probably married and is like, "You idiot! You did this. You knew. You know what's happening. Don't do that. Don't put your wife through that." But I feel like Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga have that relationship because they've worked so long with each other.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not just them working together. They're friends. They have that relationship more than likely outside of the movies. So it's easier for them.
Yeah. I think their chemistry was there from the very beginning. Like, that's hard to do. It is so hard to do. And they're nuancing it, and they're giving it these extra little nuances and touches, and they're refining it. And it's so good. It's like, I can't say enough about their performances. Like you said, Parker, any scene with them is just gold because they've just got it. They've got that chemistry down and that relationship.
So they uncover the body, or recover the body, uncover the body. I mean,
they fish it out
too. Yeah, because Lorraine says she's down there. She's
drag and tug.
Yeah. So Arnie's girlfriend Debbie calls them and says, he's pretty much like it's trying to persuade him to kill himself. So they need to put him on suicide watch, and he gets put in his own little secluded cell. And then the father of the prison brings him holy water in a glass bottle.
Newman?
What?
Father Newman?
Yeah, how was this allowed?
That's like bringing metal into Magneto's plastic prison. Like, why would you do that?
But I also have
everybody has iron in their blood.
I also have a feeling that this lady knows how to persuade other people, how it plays out in the other movies, where there's a certain thing that's there that the demon can wiggle its way into.
Yeah, maybe put the idea in his head to give him the glass.
Yeah, kind of like, oh, hey, you should probably do this, but like, because she can possess Lorraine, like, back and forth. They can go. Well,
she doesn't possess her. She is able to communicate with her. Through visions or whatever.
The link goes both ways, though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're getting to that scene.
But could she have done this before? Because Lorraine's been around all these people. Yeah.
Well, she didn't know that yet because she doesn't mention until that scene happens.
But could it have happened?
Yeah, but she didn't know who they were at that point.
Yeah.
She could have gotten Arnie. Arnie's been around him.
Well, they don't specifically say it. We make fun of it because it's us, right? Because it's fun to put. But it's one of those things that, well, that's funny that he would take glass in there. But then that's it. Like, it's not a movie killer. But you could make the explanation that she somehow manipulated him or influenced him to give him that glass bottle, because that's what the devil does. That's what the God does. They kind of put their voice in your head to make it think that it's you, so to speak. You know what I mean? And so that could be, but it's never dramatized.
Well, you see it later though that I think it works like any of the other demons, like in the first Conjuring movie. Remember, Bathsheba didn't fuck with at the Warrens' house until that locket got opened up and the demon saw them. So if it doesn't know who they are or what they are, if they exist, it needs to know that they're a thing. And I think this works because that's why the cult person had Arnie's picture on the thing at the end of the movie.
But
I think they have to see them. So if she doesn't know who that person is, they can't directly interact with them unless the person's nearby.
But Lorraine saw the whole altar from the very beginning.
Very quickly.
Yeah, she gets the vision real quick.
But they even specify that doesn't happen yet until she talks to her. Then she knows who she is.
I don't think that Lorraine realizes it until that happens.
It could be, but they're not, you don't get a lot of direct interaction except for the scene we're just talking about right now where the thing grabs her leg is like the first real direct interaction with him outside of the exorcism.
Well, not to play marriage counselor or anything, but I see both of your points. It could be explained either way. The thing is, it doesn't really talk about it. The language of the movie, he just absentmindedly gives him. Like maybe the guy's just dumb. You know what I mean? Here's some holy water. You know, it can be explained. I can see both of your points. Definitely,
and I can see it from both ways because he does seem like he just wants to do the right thing, and he doesn't think about it.
He'd probably choke on the plastic.
I don't think he has heard about the suicide watch. I think they've just, and he could have just been put in there because he was causing problems or whatever.
Yeah, it's true. That may not have happened at that point.
Yeah,
like there's a lot that I just like looking around.
I know.
I take the long way around certain things. Like I like to explain why it could happen.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is we've argued that point longer than it actually exists in the movie, right?
That's what we do best. That's what
we do.
That's how I look at movies like this. I want to know, and it may not explain why it happens, but my brain is like, I have this little hamster.
It could have happened that way.
I have a few hamsters working in my brain. One works really, really fast, and the other is just like kind of over here, like, what's for dinner? Like, what are we gonna eat for breakfast tomorrow? Like that. It's that one that likes to figure out the small things.
Yeah.
So again, Lorraine has a vision about the witch, but she needs to make contact with Jessica's body to see if there's still a connection between Jessica and the witch. So they break into the funeral home to then have her touch Jessica. She goes into like her vision, and then this turns into a zombie movie because the witch is able to possess a dead body to attack Ed so that she can attack Lorraine. Or no, I think she possesses the cadaver to attack Lorraine while she's in the trance, and Ed has to like stay in the way and protect Lorraine.
He can run,
but it was so weird. I was like, where has this franchise gone? Like, what direction are we in? Like, this used to be about just dealing with demons and trying to rid demons, and now we're playing with now we got zombies. Like, this is in my eyes a zombie.
It reminded me.
Days later.
You guys have seen The Fog, right? John Carpenter's The Fog.
Yeah.
Remember that part where they've discovered the sailors that have been killed, and I think it's Jamie Lee Curtis and I don't know, the Tom Atkins who are in the boat. And as Jamie Lee Curtis is figuring something out, you see that one of the bodies get up and move, right? But even in that, they just decided to have a shock. It makes no sense for that body to be moving, but they just wanted a shock at that point, and it works. So it's still scary seeing this giant lumbering monster kind of. But yeah, it's like, where have we? What is this? There's even a cool shot of like Ed on one side and Lorraine on the other, and the monster in the foreground. I like that, but it's like, what? Like, this is, I don't know. This isn't jiving with the first two movies that I fell in love with.
And I think the biggest problem is the fact that it returns. This zombie comes back.
It becomes, it becomes a fixture.
It's like Ed's nightmare.
Yeah.
This monster can travel very, very fast. For the size of it too.
He looks like Danny DeVito's penguin, just at a 6 foot height. That's what he looks like.
It's funny, he goes to attack Lorraine and Ed protects her. He disconnects the connection, and I love it. As soon as he does it, he just hits the ground. But it was the fact of Lorraine coming out of it and knowing that the witch could see her and was able to talk to her. And so it's like the connection goes both ways.
Yeah. Again, we've seen this in countless movies before. It's nothing, not engaging at all, I don't think.
No. Where the hell am I here? So Ed fights the zombie, sort of. We already pretty much talked about that. So the whole thing is now, where's this altar at? Like it's now that's the mystery. Like, where is the altar? And
why is this a murder mystery all of a sudden? like in this franchise. It becomes Law and Order kinda, but murder mysteries do this all the time where it's got to be somewhere in the vicinity. It's like, what? Wasn't this a haunted house? Like ghosts? Like what is? I don't know. It's just one step too far. I think it's just strange that they have all this happening.
I mean, I think that was one of James Wan's biggest thing was the fact that he wanted to get away from the haunted house.
Haunted house, right?
So,
but is that something that is Parker and Dan is that something that we're fighting against? Like we want the haunted house, and this stuff doesn't work because it doesn't fit in with what we've seen in 2 movies. Is this a Halloween 3 scenario after we've seen Michael Myers in 2 movies, and now it tries to be something different? Even though we admire that. Yeah, I mean, whether you like it or not, it's still the same situation of it would have been better if you didn't have 2 Michael Myers movies. Like this movie that comes out of nowhere. It's like, okay, my brain needs to think about this for a bit. Mm-hmm. Okay, I get it now. But like, is that our brain fighting it because it's not the same thing that we fell in love with? You know what I mean?
Well, see, me being newer to this franchise, like I'm not as I like it. Like I've grown to enjoy this franchise and a lot of the movies from it.
You haven't been Ride or Die since 2013, though. Right?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But my biggest thing I could be an equivalent of, and this is how I've been. I'm weird about some things, but not so much about others. Of course, I'm wearing my Godzilla shirt, but I love Godzilla. There's like 35 plus Godzilla films. I don't know the exact count off the top of my head.
Is that Biolante on that shirt?
Yes, it absolutely is.
All right, good.
Good hit. Thank you. I like that. But anyway, I like when a franchise does something different, and I can respect an art like a creator being like, hey, I know there's only 3 Conjuring movies, but I'm going to include all the other ones that have come before this, because even those are very formulaic and how they all work and blah, blah, blah. But I liked that they tried something different. I can understand for like hardcore fans and stuff like I don't like how they did this differently, or this doesn't make any sense, especially for yourself, Darin, you're just like The Conjuring is what you care about, not so much the offshoot film. So this is just 3 for you. Right. But like, I see where you're coming from, but I also see the opposite side where you're like, dude, it's Ed and Lorraine. I just want the shit from the first 2 that I saw that was really, really good. It doesn't even have to be the same, but just make it like that, make it good.
The fact that it makes it different is like, I don't have that's great. I think the problem here, even though it gets away, it's just ordinary. It doesn't do anything interesting. It's different, but it's not like Halloween 3 at least was a different aesthetic. Like I think with Bride of Chucky, I think that was the first funny one with Jennifer Tilly, right? Or was that Seed of Chucky? Which one came first?
It was Bride of Chucky. Yep.
But by the time Bride of Chucky showed up, I think we were tired of the franchise. So when it did a left turn and was funny, you're like, oh, okay, I'm kind of reinvested. Maybe it was with some people, right? I mean, the first Friday the 13th that I jived with was The New Blood, because it was different. To me, it was funny. It was funnier than Jason Lives. It had like a weird sense of humor. It had a little bit of story. It broke the tradition a little bit. So yeah, that's admirable, and I love that. And like Evil Dead breaks tradition. It became a comedy, that stuff. So that's fine. I just think that here, making it a murder mystery, it's too ordinary. It's not so much that it's different; it's that it's ordinary, and it's a TV episode. It becomes something less engaging, and that's where I'm.
Yeah, especially I know what you're saying. I get because it's like you're taking these people dealing with literally a supernatural situation. Like this is what they deal with. It's like extraordinary stuff. But now you're dumbing him down to like low levels of regular human policing. Like
you give them a villain that they can punch, which they literally do. Like what? Like what? The great thing about about any horror movie is the fact that these are things that we don't have any control over. We can't make sense of this horror, and that's what makes it scary. When it's a villain you can punch and put in jail, or like have a demon come and kill him, it's like, what are we doing? Like that's not what I signed up for. Sure, make it different, but why are we doing it on this level? We could have done something more creative with it.
I got a question. Would this whole theme have worked a lot better if we introduced a talking dog with a weird speech impediment? Would that have worked?
Okay.
They had the kennel, but they were one step in the right direction.
Hey, put that knife down. Put that knife down, buddy. You stabbed him enough.
Out, Arnie.
Yeah, that's right. Something. I don't know. That
Remember,
might have been
2 scoops of food for me, Arnie.
I know where you live, Arnie. So this is when we are back at the Warrens' house, and Ed has an episode, so he passes out, and he wakes up and there's no one home. He's trying to look for Lorraine. The door is wide open. And who does he find when he gets to the bottom of the stairs? But the naked big corpse from the funeral home. Like,
oh, dude, put some clothes on.
The next great Conjuring villain.
It's kind of baffling. Man. It's such a baffling decision to was like, hey, you know that zombie from before? I know that was weird for this franchise, right? Well, you're going to see him once again. But this time it's in a dream of some sort or whatever. And of course, he's able to, get out of here with his fucking crucifix. But then
that goes back to what you talked about before, Parker, about showing it too much. Like, it would have been weird, right? But you bring it back again. It's like,
and not even that worse. Far from removed from the first time you see him. It wasn't. It was like 5 minutes after you see him for the first time. He's back again, and then that's when Ed has the conversation with the witch. And again, that's when Ed has the conversation with the witch. Yes,
the fact that we say that's what happens is like, oh boy.
Well, listen, if I woke up, couldn't find my wife, the front door was broken, there's this creepy ass woman that looks like a witch, like it ain't even Halloween, I don't know what the hell's going on, and there's a large naked man in my house, I'd be like, dude, listen, I don't know what party went on while I was asleep. Y'all need to get the fuck out.
Listen,
perspective, I like that.
But of course,
you're beautiful. This woman looks like, no offense to the actress, like a fucking scarecrow or some shit.
She was casted well for this role.
She was. No offense. I'm not making fun of her or nothing. It's just.
I mean, she might not even actually look like that.
She probably not, and that's like she was in Werewolf by Midnight. That's where I remember her from. But it's like the lady that plays the nun, that plays Valak. Like, she just works great in that role.
Right. So, because Ed is having the conversation with her, he realizes, there must be a totem here, because it's the only way that she'd be able to communicate with me or be able to, be here. So he's, of course, ripping the house apart to find it. And where did they end up finding this?
It's in his office. It's in one of the flowers that was delivered. I'm guessing with the Perrin's flowers.
Yes.
That's why I thought she was a man.
Just either way.
Well, I remember her now from Werewolf by Night, because you mentioned that. I was like, oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember the character she is.
Yep.
She's
very
really
tall.
androgynous.
She's very tall.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's casted fine. Like, physically, like, I think she's fine as an actress, but whatever. But I think she's fine as the villain. But anyway, this is one thing, like, I'm surprised. I was expecting this shit in this movie. It's like, we gotta find the totem. Then he's like looking in the living room. He's like, I know where it is. I was like, dude, it's gonna be in your trinkets office. And maybe she couldn't go in there because it's, they got like holy water sprinkler system and they baptize it like 2 or 3 times a month, whatever it is. But like, how many of you were expecting Annabelle just to like come into this movie all of a sudden? Like,
we finally see Annabelle walking around. She's just like, here you go.
Yeah, like, hey,
here's the keys.
Thanks, Annabelle. Now get back in
Don't worry.
cage.
At some point in this franchise, Annabelle's going to be like a sidekick to the Warrens. She's going to be like changed her ways. Like the demon is going to be like, we're going to help you solve these mysteries now, Ed and Lorraine. And Annabelle's actually going to be able to walk and talk and stuff. And it's going to be like
where is this franchise?
She's going to walk like Megan.
No, I got to figure it out. No, it's going to be.
She has no kneecaps.
No, it's going to be Annabelle. It's the next Annabelle movie. So they're doing right. They're doing the next Conjuring after the Nun 2, and then they're gonna do Annabelle Friends Till the End, and it's gonna be a buddy cop movie with Malfeas and Valak. That's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a buddy cop movie.
Friends to the End.
And
they're gonna have to go. I got it. Never mind. It's gonna be a buddy cop movie, but it's gonna be like a Weekend at Bernie's thing, and they're gonna go hang out with the ghost from the first Conjuring. I can't think of her name.
Bathsheba.
Bathsheba, yeah.
The best name of the whole franchise.
Weekend at Bathsheba's. There you go.
And then they have to play the My Buddy theme.
Absolutely.
And Kid Sister.
Yeah. Kid Sister, please. And oh god. If you were there.
And then Teddy Ruxpin walks in.
I just like how the most important fact that Angela had to stay is she doesn't even have any kneecaps.
Listen, Megan does not have kneecaps.
Oh, Megan. I thought we were talking about Annabelle.
She probably don't have kneacaps either.
Well, no, she's a doll.
Megan has no kneecaps, so I said that's what she would be like. So she has no kneecaps either.
This is when the movie gets fucking weird because they all decide to split up. It's like, Lorraine, go see Father Cat. Yeah, go see Father
Smartest thing to do in
Kastner.
any horror movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ed is going to try to figure out where the altar is. Lorraine goes to see Kastner, and and she's doing this by herself. Like, when have they ever split up in any of these movies? Never. They're always together.
When the screenplay requires them to, yeah.
He wouldn't even let her go under the house by herself. Why is he letting her go anywhere else that he can't see her?
I wonder if they'd let their sidekick, like their aide, I wonder if he took care of the fat naked man. Like, get this fat naked man out of here.
Well, the fat naked, they didn't see the fat naked man because it was in his vision. Yeah. Yeah, imagine that. He's like, God damn it, I don't get paid enough for this.
They Mulder and Scully where they have to split them up.
Yeah. So
Victor's like, dude, put some clothes on.
I know. I was like, dude, there's towels. You're in the fucking house. Just grab one.
Cover up your folds, man.
Yeah, exactly.
No, because I was waiting. I was like, okay, they have to have certain like shadows. I was like, you can see the bottom of his stomach. Like, I don't want to see anymore. Thanks, but no thanks.
There's like this suspicion. No, I got this. This is for viewers. It's like, dude, it's like this one specific dark shadow, just like all the way fucking down. It's like, in the corners where it's just a suspicious black shadow.
How'd they get a horse in that corners?
And every time he takes a step, it's not just bang bang, it's bang flap. Bang flap.
Yes. It's old Brody O'Neill. I know this guy from school. He always walked with this weird limp. He had like an odd gait when he like tripod shit.
He was flipping it over his shoulder once in a while.
Yeah.
Is that your towel? Nope.
Tired of tripping over it. Yeah.
It's the best way to pat yourself on the back.
So Lorraine gets to Father Kastner's house. And of course, he's like, come on in. The most this is a sign where she just goes, maybe I should call Ed and have him come here too, because this isn't good. Because he's like, come on in, come down to my creepy basement full of scary things,
which she did not want to go down to in the first place. What's happening?
But yet she goes down.
I'm surprised. The note that I had is like, oh, what a surprise! The person that was in a creepy house turns out to be the bad guy who saw this coming, right?
No.
I'm surprised he didn't offer one of those old people strawberry candies.
The other note I had is I like that he kept the scrapbook to explain the plot.
Yes. But the fact is we had to get Lorraine wandering around the room because he just disappeared. And you're like, oh no, is he going to attack her? And then he's just sitting at his desk.
Did we state the fact that he locked the door after she came inside?
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
Why is the lock on the inside?
Did he lock it to keep the daughter out? I assume that's what. So. But it takes you out of the movie because you think he locks the door because he's going to be murdered. But then
it's so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Yeah, it was very confusing.
He's just a totally normal dude that gives off a creepy vibe. That's his whole. That's his whole deal.
What he says when he's sitting at the desk.
Yeah.
About the tunnels underneath.
Yeah, he knows about the tunnels.
She can. So I assume that he's locking Lorraine in.
Yeah, it makes sense because he does know about the tunnels and she knows about the tunnels.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, doesn't she pretty much live down in the tunnels?
I guess so.
That's what I'm guessing.
Certain things that he says, I was just waiting for
except when she goes to Wendy's.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. Who doesn't want a Frosty and some French fries?
I want one right now.
I mean, really. You're the only one that can drive at this point of the night. Just saying.
Yes.
But no, I was waiting because he's there when Lorraine steps into this, like the top of the staircase, and then he's just gone. I'm like, where'd he go?
Phase shifts.
And then when he turns on the light, I'm like, how the hell did he get down there before her?
Dude, he's been playing in that shit since like his 30s. It's like, I'm gonna super villain somebody someday in my life. I swear.
Like, does he have like this secret, like, I'm just gonna dumbwaiter myself down into the basement?
Well, this happens again here in a moment where we have people teleporting around, but we'll.
Are you talking about her?
Yes.
She's the only one who teleports because she's a witch.
And but he does it too. He like vanishes and then he's suddenly at the desk. Ooh,
I feel like that's such a different feeling though. Like I just feel like he knows this area like the back of his hand, so he's able to get to his desk at a quicker pace, where she's like, I'm not familiar with this place and it's dark, so I'm wandering around. And by the time she realizes where she is, he's been sitting at that desk.
It's the same thing with the Chavez stuff. It's like this is the first instance where he's kind of making you question what's happening, but it does it in a way. He's like Colin Trevorrowing it. This guy can't win with me, right? Because he's trying to give you a mystery,
right?
But it all it does is go what like, and then they for no reason, because he's normal, like he's not a ghost. They just did that to fool you, and it's like, well, why are we? It's this red herring that we know is going to be a red herring. Like, what do you do? Like, this is the point where you decide to try and trick my brain into things. It doesn't work.
He has a trap door right above his desk where he just opens and drops down.
Dude, I'll tell you how this actually would go. She would go downstairs, like, Father, where are you? And he's like shuffling around in the dark and like knocks 4 things off a table. Shit, just hang on, give me a minute. And gets to the table and then turns the light
Wouldn't
on.
that have been cooler? That still would have done the same thing, but it would have been more character based. He's an old man that can't see in the dark. He can't find. That would have been better than him teleporting around like he's
wow.
Yeah,
weird.
Like he doesn't leave. It was confusing because he doesn't leave her. Like, where did he go?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's Mr. Plot Exposition at this point.
Yeah, because of course when Lorraine shows up to the desk, he tells her about how he had an illegitimate daughter. He took care of her by himself, and because of the fact that he was dealing with all this occult stuff, she became fascinated in it and then ended up joining it. And we find out, she must be the witch.
You're normalizing it. The movie is normalizing the scary stuff, right? It's before Bathsheba and Yarrick. I forget the name. Yarrick? Is that the name of the? I'm getting it wrong. Valak. There's no explanation for them. They're just evil for the sake of being evil, and you can't fight that, right? You can't fight it. Again, they're giving you a villain that you can punch and you can easily solve your way out of it. Just this whole explanation thing. Again, it's a Law and Order episode. It's just it's explaining things and making it. It's the equivalent of Psycho. Like you could have ended it with Norman Bates running in dressed as the mom, but instead they have to have this 15-minute scene where it's a psychologist explaining it and making it seem like like textbookish. It's like you just killed the whole tone of the movie for me, right? It's like, why are you explaining it?
Because a lot of people just don't understand. They're just like, what happened? Why?
No imagination.
What happened to Norman Bates?
It was crazy.
So we're back at the prison, and Arnie's not doing so hot. He's in the infirmary, and Debbie's there. I don't think that would be happening. But the priest is also there, trying to get things going. And
they're there.
Yeah, pretty much. There. This priest just is
Hold this knife or this gun while I go off and try to find a drinking.
God said you need to protect yourself. This is holy. He just hands him a revolver.
And weird things are starting to happen. He's starting to react, starting to contort, and of course the priest is trying to, I guess, he's just reading passages from the Bible to try to fix things. It's not going so well.
Which one?
Yeah.
So
we're just going to open it up. Whatever page it lands on, we're going to start reading for you.
Back at the Kasner house, Lorraine gets forced into the tunnels when the daughter shows up and just quickly kills her father.
Which is dumb.
I remember this going differently the first time I watched this. I thought he was helping. I thought he was like... I always thought he was like on her side. He was like her sidekick, but
nope, lamer than that.
Yeah, she just slits his throat. This is the teleportation. He's literally talking to her in front of him, and then in a flash, she's behind him, slits his throat.
Millions of times.
She's apparently a shadow mage now. Like travels like,
you got your dad by slitting his throat, and that be it. Like, that's
like,
lame.
Sonny, she's like, honey, I let your prey loose in the tunnels. Have fun, and then murks him. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and then we get into some weird... I mean, we've already gotten into a lot of weird stuff in this movie, stuff that just doesn't feel like The Conjuring, and it just keeps on going. Because, so Lorraine finds the altar. She can't destroy it because it's too heavy.
Why is she trying to push it?
I don't know.
Knock all the shit off the top first.
Angela. She's terrified.
Too many questions.
Yes. So
she doesn't know what she's doing. Haven't you guys ever been in a situation where you were terrified out of your mind and all you really needed to do was just push a desk? Haven't you guys?
That's a heavy ass desk. That's dangerous.
See,
it's concrete.
I just need to push a heavy ass desk every now and then. That's life.
Listen, I have been in situations, not life or death situations, not like this where somebody is chasing me, but I have been in situations where I have been hurt and things don't come natural. But
is that when you stabbed that guy? Just kidding.
When I hurt my
I know.
I know you're joking.
I know
my
exactly.
foot.
Statute of limitations, Dan.
So I had a point where I'm like freaking out and I'm yelling, and my kid at this time, I'm like yelling. I'm like, "Why'd you run away?" Yes, I know I scared you, but why'd you run away? So get back down here. But then I'm like,
help me relocate my hip.
No, my foot at this point. But then I forced my brain to stop doing the whole hamster wheel thing. You get to a point where you're like, stop doing stupid shit.
Well, everybody reacts differently to stress than other people, and I will always bring up the timeless thing of as I do. It's people who like to tell cops what they should or shouldn't done in a situation where it was life threatening and they had a gun. If you weren't there, you've no fucking place to say anything. But anyway, but that's what I'm talking about. But everybody reacts different. Some people run, it's fight or flight. Some people run. True. Some people do the thing.
Push desks. Yeah.
But if you can't push the desk after 5 minutes, try something different.
And she's coming. You've got the sight, man. She's got the mind's eye, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Do the whole, I'm going to clear the desk of everything.
Well, she sees, because the tunnel's connected, she sees the occultist run down, and the next time you see her, she's somewhere else running away. So it's like that whole thing with the desk was nonsense. It had nothing to do with anything. I don't know what she was doing. They never explain it.
I got nothing.
I thought she was trying to get under it somehow, open another tunnel. What is she doing?
This is where the best snacks are.
I mean, guys, women, right?
Yes.
Wow.
We'll never understand.
I know. I am outnumbered.
Women.
That's all I know.
Listen, if I was with this version of Lorraine Warren and she's like, hold my purse, I'm like, gladly. Please let me hold.
I wouldn't have gone to the house in the first place.
Neither would I. I like how much this locked door we talked about earlier plays nothing in the story.
Nope. She just easily opens the door. She's there.
Yep, nothing.
She just
he moves the whole wall and there she is. He pushes this whole thing over and she appears.
Yeah.
Where the hell are we now?
Where the fuck did you come from?
I've always
We're
been
in a warehouse somewhere.
Part of the ship now.
You remember Shopco and the upstairs and you could move all the shelves.
So Ed gets to the house.
There's all these tunnels, but let me lock the door just in case this one time she decides to come through the door. Who knows? Whatever.
I told her to meet me at the front door. Go through the tunnels. She's always listened to me. That good daughter of mine. No sacrifices or soul hunting for her. Oh no.
No. Occultist.
So Ed makes it to the house, and this is when Lorraine is going through some trippy moments where there's the moment where she falls down and she sees a double of herself.
That's so weird. Are we watching Doctor Strange?
Yeah, I was very confused. Yeah, I'm guessing just the witch is causing her to hallucinate in a way to distract her from where she's going so she can catch up with her, I'm guessing.
That's kind of par for the course for what we've seen. Which, like I said, this is weird. This demon makes people hallucinate more than we have in other movies.
But this is the moment that the witch pins her to the ground, and then Lorraine is able to take the rock and hit her in the side of the head, and able to get away.
Listen, this scene with the knife holding somebody down, we're like, shh, look at me, whatever.
Open your eyes, look at me.
You know who did this better? It's a little director I'd like to call Steven Spielberg in Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan? There you go.
Exactly. I fucking hate that scene because it's so well done. That scene pisses me off to no end, but it's because it's so good. But this is not that.
Yeah, this is more Mission Impossible knife to the eye than it is Saving Private Ryan.
Take this small pebble.
Yeah.
My favorite.
I rolled my eyes so many times in this and the next part.
My favorite part about that scene in Saving Private Ryan is isn't it Adam Goldberg who gets stabbed?
Yes, it is.
I can't stand him in anything he does. He's one of the most obnoxious actors I've ever watched.
You got stabbed.
He's
another guy that deserves to be stabbed.
He's in two or three episodes of Friends, and he's the worst character in Friends. And he's also in Dazed and Confused, and his character in Dazed and Confused is just the worst. He's annoying, a whiny little bitch. I can't stand him.
So Parker's train of thought for this is fuck that Jewish guy. Let him go.
That wasn't why I hated him. It was just Adam Goldberg as an actor.
Knife rock
annoys me.
Yeah, he is obnoxious as fuck.
But so this also starts up Arnie, and he's starting to go through his demonic, things at the here's the thing, we're in two completely different scenes, and you're kind of stuck in the middle of going, which one is more interesting? Which one do I care about more? And to be honest, neither of them. They're both just blah.
I don't know. I'd rather prefer Lorraine versus old Dusty Crotch than I do fucking
Me
Arnie.
too. I mean, I would rather watch it worse, but they keep cutting back to Arnie because he's annoying. Kind of the point of this movie, right? And it's uninteresting.
They're getting to a point that we'll get to that I wanted to comment on, but I get why they're doing it, but yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
But this is when we get Ed getting blown dust in his face, and he gets possessed to the point where he starts attacking Lorraine with a sledgehammer, and
she took freaking charcoal dust and put it in his face. Like we've been grilling out tonight. Let me just blow this in your face.
And
what? Why?
Yeah. So he, of course, goes into rampage mode. And
literally,
and
that's
Lorraine
what I feel like
is trying to persuade him to stop attacking her. And the whole thing is I forgot to mention the whole fact that Lorraine tells Debbie the story of how her and Ed met.
Tells the father, because the father says, "Go home."
Right.
The main father, go home, rest, and she's like, "This is my home."
Yeah.
Right? He tells that story. Yeah.
And
I like their story, but that's absolutely not at this point.
It was a whole thing. They kissed under a gazebo when it was raining back in 1940 something, or 50, whatever.
It was 30 years before this happened. So
okay, so 1951.
Yeah.
So the demon also is fucking with Arnie. We keep getting kind of thrown back and forth between these two scenes. So Lorraine is finally able to clear Ed's head of the magical fairy dust, and Ed smashes the altar with the sledgehammer that he has, which then frees Arnie from the curse, and then the demon ends up taking the witch's soul. Which to be honest, I actually liked this whole thing where she kind of comes out of the shadow and she's all she feels confident, and then and Ed's like, "You lost. You were supposed to claim a third soul and you didn't, and so the demon's coming for you." And it's just the demon is just her coming out of the shadows again, and then she just gets all fucking bent up. And
this must be what all demons look like. So
that's so lazy.
That's the thing. What it builds to, showing Arnie and Debbie, and then showing Ed and Lorraine. They're trying. It gets to the point. I think Lorraine has a line of this. They can't break our. They think our love is the weakness, but our love is the strength. And so it shows that. Except I don't know of the connection really between Debbie and Arnie. They haven't dramatized that too well. I get the Ed and Lorraine thing, but the fact that it's our love is what makes us strong. It's this is the 750th time that they've used something like this. I mean. It ties in with the first two Conjurings, where they speak to Perone, and she's think about your family, right? It's about your family. You can overcome this. Think about your kids, and that's how they're able to beat the demon, right?
Yep.
It ties into that. Only here it's really clunky and obvious and so scriptwriterly, and that's even that the demon demands a soul. That's even been done countless times, right? There's nothing about this whole ending that isn't rote or isn't cliched. It just doesn't work. It's so. If James Wan had done this, he would have found a way to make it. I know he came up with the story, but if he directed it, he would have found a way to make it work. This director just doesn't have it in him to overcome these issues that we're having. It's empty calories as opposed to a full meal. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It's the diet version But
there you go.
I almost feel like this director, I feel like James Wan could have helped him as a director, and he's just like, nah, I got this.
Probably.
Well, it's the same thing of Christopher Nolan with Batman versus Superman. It's like, or Man of Steel. It's like Christopher Nolan's a better director. I wouldn't even argue that. He's a better director than Zack Snyder is. But he kind of stays out of it and lets Snyder do his own thing. And it's weird seeing Nolan's name attached to a movie that doesn't work like a Christopher Nolan movie. You know what I mean? It's like Wan seems like he's there, but he's letting the director do his thing instead of stepping in.
I mean, that's the thing. I think when it comes to like that example of Batman v Superman and Christopher Nolan and Emma Thomas having their names attached to that movie, I just don't think they had ideas that Warner Brothers considered. And they didn't do anything with that movie. It's the same thing with Steven Spielberg and all the Transformers movies. Do you think Steven Spielberg was on the set of Transformers with Michael Bay? Absolutely not. No one wants to be around Michael Bay because he's a psychopath. So he just was like, yeah, sure, slap my name on it. I think it's, I mean, I think he was somewhat involved in the Jurassic World movies because, he was a big part of why that franchise exists. But
the first Jurassic World, definitely. But
how much input did he really have? Without, you don't want to be like stepping on the director's toes. And I think that's kind of what James Wan was doing. He was involved with all these movies, but I think he was trying to let these directors do their own thing. But I feel like when it comes to The Conjuring, like I feel James Wan, should have been involved a little bit more because these are the characters he brought to the screen and was able to form into such. I mean, these are icons, to be honest, as the fictional versions of these characters. So I just felt like they were just, they weren't played with well, if you know.
Yeah, and not so much James Wan stepping on toes, but if I was a director coming behind someone that did so well, I would be like, hey, I would get your opinion. Like, do you think this is good?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be so into myself, like up my own ass, to be like, no, I'm not going to get your opinion.
Right.
I'm doing this. This is my thing.
Spielberg had his name on Back to the Future, right? He had his name on Mask of Zorro.
Gremlins.
But I think Gremlins, Martin Campbell and Joe Dante and Robert Zemeckis are better directors where Spielberg can go, you got this, and they will give it their own thing, right? Yeah. But again, this Chavis guy he's not that. No. He doesn't. He can direct a movie and have a shot, but he's not that. He's not on that level. And I don't know if he will be. It seems like it's just a rote kind of thing. So maybe it's cool that a director doesn't step in and say something because it can get him in trouble. But
I mean, I would still just get the opinions of
something, right?
Like I design certain things and I'm like, hey, how do you think this looks? Like I am one to second guess myself. And I'm the hardest on my own self. Like, I could be like, hey, I'm going to put this out here, but I think it's shit. But I'm still going to put it out here.
That's how I am
this
about the show.
This feels like a first...
I mean, I have
This feels like your first draft where a Wan movie would be a final draft. Does that make sense?
No,
it just feels like...
Exactly. Like, I have some things that I'm designing for work, and I'm like, how do you think this looks? Does it look okay? Do I need to do anything? Like... And I'm still, I keep looking at it and I'm like, I need to do this. Like, I keep second guessing myself. And then I'm like, I should have just left it alone in the beginning.
That is something that I think I do all the time when it comes to like little things, like stupid things. Like when I make a thumbnail for an episode, like, do I want it to, like, how much do I want in that thumbnail? Do I want it to have all this, like, all these words, like the title of it, or should it just have the movie? Like, it's just, those little things that pop into my head. And then there's even times where I've had to switch things after the fact, or I'm looking at a description, a YouTube description, and how am I going to write the description of what we're doing in the episode? I do the same thing, so I know what you're
Angela and Parker, that's your thing. Like, that's what you do. You're good at what you do, right? Chavis is not good at what he does. There's a difference there. You guys are a little like, you're not totally confident, but it's like this guy is like, he doesn't even have it. You know what I mean? Somebody should have been there to at least say, well, why don't you try some of this? Like, here's something you could do, but it doesn't seem like any of that is here.
Plant that seed there that could grow into something. He could end up being something really great. He just needs that.
I mean, I haven't looked at any reviews on The Nun 2, so I don't know how he did with that, but
it's a copycat. It's not the real thing. It's a diet version. It's not the real thing. It's an imitation. And again, having Ed come out and having his heart, not to jump ahead of your part, but having his heart hurt again, and how I forgot my pills, and she pulls out the heart-shaped pendant and opens it up, and they bring back the Mark Isham theme, the family theme from the first Conjuring, and it's like that's what I just wish that the horror stuff was stronger, because the horror stuff is stronger in the first two Conjurings. Yeah. This one, I'm just desperately trying to find something to hold on to and make it worth my while. And Farmiga and Wilson, they do it every time. So if it wasn't for them, this movie would be terrible. But I think they make it a worthwhile watch.
Yeah. Well, the movie pretty much ends with Ed bringing the witch's cup to the museum, and Arnie is found guilty of manslaughter instead of murder. So I guess in reality, he was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison, but he only served 2 on good behavior.
It was 15, but he only served 5. I think that was
so that's what the movie says. Yeah. From what I've seen, it was he was sentenced to 10, but he only served 2.
Because everybody knows that Bruno was an asshole. So.
Yeah. And it says the fact that he ended up marrying Debbie while he was in prison, and they're still married today.
They're still married.
Yeah. Well, this is the moral of the story. The moral of this story is love will save you from a demon, but it will not keep you out of prison. So that is the moral of this whole story.
Yeah. You gotta be responsible. Yeah. You gotta pay your dues.
And of course we get another thing where Ed buys Lorraine a gazebo for the backyard to kind of reminisce about the first time they met or first time they kissed or whatever. And then the credits roll, and we get actual audio recordings of David's exorcism, which even if you don't believe in demonic possessions or whatever, these tapes, and I've listened to a lot of these exorcism tapes, they're creepy as hell. Like, it doesn't matter if you think they're real or not. They're done, like, if they're all fake, hey, good on whoever produced them, because they're fucking fantastic. They're terrifying. This is what I would rather listen to these exorcism tapes than watch this movie again. Like, just give me 2 hours of
scary
demons talking to the real Ed and Lorraine Warren.
I feel that. So I grew up in a very religious household. So we did things once a year once I got to be a teenager that were just like conventions for our church. So seeing David in the beginning have an exorcism performed on him and seeing the white foam come out of his mouth, that just reminds me of the year that I went to this convention and they saw somebody. I didn't personally see it, so it's just all word of mouth. This teenager fall to the ground and start foaming at the mouth. And they just said that, she was possessed. So, like, he doesn't believe. I'm kind of, like, in the middle where am I, do I really believe? Am I just, like, I'm just, like, right there in the middle. So it's, like, seeing some of these scenes in movies brings back those memories. And then hearing the tapes, I'm like, shit.
Well, horror is very subjective, right? Some people are not going to find Dracula scary because they're not afraid of vampires. Some people aren't. Yeah. Some people aren't going to find sharks scary because they love living in the ocean, right? So Jaws isn't going to be it for them, that kind of thing.
I think never get in the ocean.
The thing with this movie, with the Conjuring movies and with Poltergeist and with The Exorcist, that kind of is whether or not this stuff is actually happened the way they're presenting it to us on screen. I believe that this stuff exists. There are unexplained things out there and demonic possessions, things that are beyond our control, beyond our conception, that kind of thing. So these kind of movies are terrifying to me because these are things that can't be explained, but they're out there and they can affect different people.
So, like, it's still in the back of my brain, growing up that way, they're like, don't have mirrors in your room because you can get possessed by demons through your mirrors. So here I am, like, after we watch these and I go into the bathroom or whatever, I'm like, I really don't want to look in the mirror because I don't want to see something behind me. Or the fact that you can watch.
Hey.
I like thinking about it right now. I've got chills.
Give it the finger or give it a snack. I don't know.
Yeah, one of those.
Or just.
Or finger it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about glory holes and cum in this in a cup. So she's out. I mean, why not add to that?
Those are good parents right there. They're making sure.
She's
normally not in here.
No, she can. I asked her. She said she was scared from the movie, so she's gonna sleep in our bed.
Expected, so.
Oh yeah, I mean, after Victor got scared watching Men in Black.
He did get scared watching Men in Black.
Oh, all right.
But
is it Mikey? Is that the first alien?
Yes. The lady one in our episode says that she was terrified by that part because she'd never seen something.
Scary. Like he's cool until he like freaks the fuck out.
It was what,
dude. Chill out.
It was what 4 years ago when we watched it.
No, it was longer than that.
4 or 5 years ago.
It's been a minute because he was younger. Yeah.
I just watched it yesterday.
He also tried to watch Alien with us, and he didn't make it.
That was about 4 years ago. I'm like, you coward, get your ass back in here.
And as soon as the alien popped out, and he's like, no.
No, it was when they took it was the face hugger shit. When they tried to take it off of
John Hurt. Kane.
Yeah, Kane.
Yeah.
John Hurt.
But yeah, like, it's still growing up. Them saying that you can be possessed by watching certain things. Like, it's still growing up watching Poltergeist. Like, I forced myself to watch it. And The Exorcist. It still is like, I'm like looking over my shoulder. Like, is this really going to happen? Like, how, people say, hey, you can get, possessed, or you can invite demons into your house through these movies. So here I am. I'm still like, there's part of me that's like, I really don't want to watch this because, like, is this gonna happen?
Get the old dick window.
What growing up, being
there's substance to that comment.
Being taught a certain way, you still think.
Well, yeah, because that's how you're raised.
Think about that, even though you haven't subjected to yourself to said things until all of this, and I'm still like. Got a door right there. I keep looking in our camera, making sure that door's not moving.
Wasn't that door shut when we started recording?
Dude.
Growing up, I would not sleep. I literally would not sleep with my closet door shut.
Interesting.
And the feet. Tell them about the blankets.
I will.
Jesus
not
Christ! Sleep. Is this gonna be? This is gonna be a whole other podcast, guys.
I will not sleep with my feet outside of the blanket. I will not.
Dan's Dan's just feeding Angela more shit she could talk about.
No.
When we cover The Nun 2, I will explain the dick window reference because it's a real event that happened to me, and I shit you not. It's not a haunting thing, but I will explain the dick window thing.
He was like. Like, you got a piece in your
pants
like, that's like showing?
Yes, no, not that. Not like
Dan, I'm gonna message you later, Dan. I can't wait. I'm gonna message you later so you can explain that.
I've heard this story a couple times, but no, I'm done.
Go ahead.
So let's share our final thoughts on the movie before we go to comments and all the final parts of the show. So, Darin, what are your final thoughts on this movie? What did you truly think of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It?
As usual, I wanted to mention one more thing, and then it ties in. Did you guys notice the references to the other movies that it kept dropping? Yes. Like the Exorcist reference when the priest gets out of his car at the beginning. Yeah. The waterbed obviously is A Nightmare on Elm Street, like you talked about. The Shining, when he gets possessed at the end and walks around trying to kill his own family.
Yep.
And then the most deep dive one, if any of you guys you've seen this GIF, it's the Mario Bava's Shock, where it's a shot of a woman at the front of a hallway and she sees a kid run at her, and the kid, just when it's out of frame, an adult pops up like in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
That happens in this, where you see Lorraine running at Ed and all of a sudden it changes and it becomes the occultist that blows the dust. And
So
the last thing I'll say is
they do that exact shot in Annabelle, where the main character is in a room.
Way better.
there's a kid in another room, and when she runs in, the kid runs as soon as it hits the door, it's an adult.
Yeah, it's way better done. It's way better done in the movie.
So they did it twice. That's it. So that kind of stuff, again, that wasn't in the first two Conjurings. I don't know why all of a sudden we're having this be a meta version of the story, right? But again, that ties in with what I think of the movie is that we've seen this. It's referencing these other movies that we've seen and we enjoy a lot more, that it made more of a stamp, right? This movie's fine. Like, it doesn't, I said it before, the first two Conjurings are not breaking any rules. They're not setting a new standard. They're just resetting it and saying, hey, you want a good haunted house movie? This is how you make a good haunted house movie. You have good characters that you care about. The Warrens are juxtaposed with the Perones as a good family, right? In the second one, it's an evolution of that, where Ed and Lorraine are kind of the aspirational version of a family that the Hodgsons, because the Hodgsons, I'm getting that right, that's their name, the family's name, right? Yep. They don't have the dads left. And so when Ed is playing Can't Help Falling in Love, he's the father figure that they've been missing, right? Yep. And then you have a shot of, it shows how he's charming them. And it shows Lorraine like she's charmed by him. And you can tell that she's in love with him. Because of one of a myriad of reasons, he can do this and have this effect on people. But then she gets a look on her face because the whole movie she's terrified about losing him, right? Where she backs off. And it's that human stuff that sells those first two movies above. The scares are awesome, but if it wasn't for that connection we have to Ed and Lorraine, those two movies wouldn't work as well as they do. And that's the problem with this. It just, it's different, Dan, like you talked about. It tries something different, but it's just so ordinary, and it just redoes so many things that have already been copied after copy after copy. And then the only thing we have to latch onto is that relationship, which is legitimately, sincerely great, right, between those two actors. All of us agree that is great stuff. But if the movie had been on that level with its scares, right, even the thing with the medicine at the end, that's screenwriterly, that she has the thing. It's written. You can tell it's written, but it still works because of the acting. I think that's the difference between the other two Conjurings, maybe the Annabelle and the nuns and on all that stuff too. It's that connection that we have, and that's the saving grace for the movie. If it wasn't for that, like I said, this would be a terrible piece of trash movie. It just wouldn't work at all for me if not for those connections.
All right. Dan, Angela, who wants to go next?
I will. It's better than Dick Window. Just to build this ridiculous. It's not a good story, but I'm going to build the hype out of like, Dan, what's Dick Window? Nobody's going to ask that because nobody probably gives you shit, except for Darin, which I appreciate.
But anyway, my gosh, yes.
Heard the story a couple times.
Yeah, she knows about it.
Angela selling.
Yeah. I enjoyed this one. I thought it was a pretty decent movie. Of course, the Warrens, like you said, are the best part of it. I think there's a little bit too much jumping back and forth, like we talked about. And I think a reason I probably like this more is because it wasn't as scary, because I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. I don't enjoy being scared. I get no joy from it whatsoever. I don't mind a good tense scene, like you said, to build up tension and stuff like that. I just don't like being scared. Whatever. Anyhow, but the villain being a human, I didn't really care for all that much at the end of it. Like, I get it was a witch, but like, we had the first one where it's like a witch ghost demon thing, and then the second one is a demon manipulating a spirit, and then this one is a human manipulating a demon, but it's a demon we almost know nothing about. We only care about the woman. In all the other movies, we've hyped the demons up. We don't know any significance of this thing other than it's a demon and it does bad things, and it only does bad things because of this witch lady. And like, I don't feel like there was enough buildup on what we're dealing with. We're more about the story of like, let's help these people and find out what's going on, but we're not explaining enough about the villain. And I don't need a lot explained, as I've talked about before, but the other Conjuring movies explain enough of this shit to give us a taste. We learn about Valak a little bit. We learn about the other ones I can't remember, Malfeas and Bathsheba, and like, we learn about them. And so it's like, oh, this is interesting, but they don't just like, you get nothing. It's like, this is just a demon that does things with dust in your house and possesses people and fucks up your walls. I don't know. Anyhow, but yeah, like, I don't. It's okay. I enjoyed it. I think it's better than some of the other movies we've watched. But it's very middle of the road, I think, outside of the Warrens' performance, for sure. I tried to keep that short. I did a very, very, very good job.
I enjoyed this movie only because of the Warrens. there was a certain, like I said before, there were certain little things that I really enjoyed, like the claws bringing the boy downstairs, and certain other smaller things. But I was prepared for it to be what, Malphus?
Malphus. Again, I've never said this demon before, but the only reason I know is because of a YouTube video I watched.
Yeah. I was expecting that to be the demon in the end.
The Annabelle again.
Just because of the claws.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a demon. I mean, most demons are.
But I wasn't expecting it to look like her. Like,
I know, I'm so fucking letdown, dude. Like,
well, that's the thing is she's not the demon.
No, I know.
She was controlling a demon that you never see, which is weird because you always tend to see the demon in the in these movies. But then
even if you just at the end, I wanted to know what this demon was.
Right.
Not that it was just her.
Like, you know, just have it be the big fat man come up behind her. Like, they got this thing of this big naked fat dude showing up. Like, that'd be fucking weird coming out behind you, right? That's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, he was scary enough. Like, I don't want to know what. It's
the Black Shadow, man.
I don't want to know what is underneath the hanging belly. Like, I don't need to see that. But no, like, I had worked myself up in some of the scenes where I wanted to be scared. I wanted that jump scare, and I didn't get it, and I was just kind of disappointed. Like, I wanted, when he looked in the glory hole, I wanted that. At least something.
It's the fat dude's dick to come out. Like,
something.
Got your eye, motherfucker.
But yeah, like.
Squirt.
Worse than getting salt in your eye.
It's my eyes. No. Oh gosh. But I just didn't enjoy this as much as I feel like I could have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was my second time seeing this movie. And
I'm sorry.
And to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, as much as I complain about a lot of stuff in this episode, and it's all, you know, I wasn't just doing it to stir the pot, but I enjoyed it this time around than I did the first time. The first time I was like, oh, this is not The Conjuring. This is rough. I just don't understand what the hell is going on. Second time, I have those same feelings, but I actually enjoyed the movie more. I think I don't know. I guess I just always enjoy seeing, you know, Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson on screen, you know, being a great team.
Yeah.
Like, again, we've talked about it many times. They are just so good together in these films, and it just sucks that the script was so trash around them that they had to literally put this whole movie on their backs to at least make it to the finish line. And yes, the fact that the villain is a human and not a demon, even though there is a demon, but you don't see the demon, and it's just very confusing. It's a witch, which whatever, but it's the fact is, like, there was just so many elements of this movie that just didn't feel like it was a Conjuring movie. Like, we have the fact that we have Ed becoming a Jack Torrance type character, you know, trying to kill Lorraine, and you have just all these weird factors that just don't make sense. It's like, is this the same franchise? Where are we right now? I don't know. It was very confusing. It was a mess. And I'm just, this director just kind of seems like he's like, oh, want to try new things. I feel like that's kind of how Saw went. Like, Saw went into this weird direction where, like, James Wan and Lee Wynell had such a vision for what Saw was. And I think Saw, if for a low budget horror movie, did a great job at bringing tension and, you know, doing all these things and making it a really good horror movie. Yes, it is a gory movie. It's people now call the Saw franchise gore porn, but, like, I feel as the franchise went along, you had a different director most of the time, and you had different writers, and you had different ideas being thrown around, and it just turned into a cohesive mess. And now we're getting a 10th one, so yippee. And I feel like that's kind of how I feel like that's what The Conjuring is doing. It's like they're giving all these newer directors these chances, but the problem is like Michael Chaves didn't, like, and we talked about it La Llorona is not that good. It's our lowest ranked movie of this franchise as of right now. I mean, we'll see where this lands, but it was a messy movie. There was just too much of you see too much of the ghost, and you like the characters you don't get to, you don't get to dive into these characters enough to care. And you're taking these really like probably the best two characters of this entire franchise, and you're kind of making a joke of them. And it's kind of unfortunate, but that's the problem is the end of this tail end of this franchise is just an absolute mess, and it sucks to see because I love this genre. I love this genre of the horror where the paranormal and stuff like that, and the fact that Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga did such a great job with The Conjuring and made me want to see them more and more. Like I can't wait for the next Conjuring. I hope it's really good. I hope they correct the wrongs from this one and they make a better, more cohesive movie. But this one just wasn't it. This one was a mess. And as much as I mean, I can't say I hated it. It was fine.
It's just disappointing as a come down from the first two. That's the only thing that doesn't quite.
Yeah. Well, we are now on to comments. We got a few comments. We as
angry comments.
As you all may know, we ask Twitter/X, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. We tell you what movie we're watching, and you guys leave comments for us to read on the show, and we got a few. So we're going to start off with X/Twitter. Our first one is from Podcast in the Woods, and this one's a long one, so strap in. This should have been called The Devil Made Me Forget It. He's a sneaky bastard. More wasted potential. The core story is an interesting one, but the execution is so nonsensical at times. The pacing is not great, so by the sappy end of it, I'd gotten bored, and my mind had regurgitated everything I watched. To be honest, I kind of agree with a lot of the points there. Like, it's a lot of wasted potential. I mean, we've mentioned it many times. A lot of wasted potential. Just it had an interesting core with the whole Devil Made Me Do It case, and then it kind of just disappears, kind of evaporates, and then they're like, "Oh, remember this? Hey, remember this thing?" Oh, wait, it's gone again.
Yes, over here.
Dustin from the Flicks and Friends podcast, the man who decided for us to go through this whole journey, just said sorry.
Yep.
Oof, hey.
We have
that comment. I was like, wait a minute, no.
We have patron Stu from the Stu World Order podcast who said, I hated the evil magic dust was a plot point. This was so far out of bounds even for the Conjuring universe. This was also the first or second movie I saw in theaters after COVID. Forget if this came out before Quiet Place 2. I think this came out before Quiet Place 2. I don't remember. Our next one is from Joey Butts 21, who said, what a massive step down from the first two. Also, the Warrens are pieces of shit. All right. And our final one on Twitter is from @L_P_ring, who said, drawn out and utterly tepid Perry Mason TV movie like fare. I'll pray for you.
There you go.
Thank you. And then we got one on Instagram. It was from Brady from the Epic Film Guys, who just says, Godspeed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the comments. We appreciate you. Make sure to follow us on all the social medias so that you can see when we post whatever movie we're going to be covering, so you guys can comment on it. We love reading your comments. Darin is a frequent commenter on for our episodes, so it's always fun to read the comments from all of you. Now, well, we got to wait for Angela to come back, because now we're going to move on to rankings. This is the last movie for now of our Conjuring universe journey, so now we have to rank them. So currently, our rankings for the Conjuring universe is, I mean, I can't remember how many. We've done 7. So at number 7 is The Curse of La Llorona. At number 6 is Annabelle Comes Home. At number 5 is Annabelle. Number 4 is The Nun. Number 3 is Annabelle Creation. Number 2 is The Conjuring. And number 1 is The Conjuring 2. So, as you know, we start from the bottom. Is The Conjuring... I'm just going to say The Conjuring 3. Is it better than The Curse of La Llorona?
Yes.
Okay. Is it better than Annabelle Comes Home?
Yes.
Is it better than Annabelle?
Oh, yeah, she has a difference of opinion.
Oh, okay.
She looked at me when I said yes, because there's more Warrens in this one than there's the other one. And that movie.
That's the only thing that makes it better.
How is it better? It's entirely inconsequential. It's up to you. If you want to stick to your guns, stick to your guns, please. That was not intentional.
I'm putting my vote in. I think this is better than Annabelle Comes Home.
I think it's better. I think it's better.
Okay.
Is it better?
I'm outnumbered.
Is it better than Annabelle?
No.
That opening's pretty strong, but
that's the only thing it's got going for it.
Yeah. Yeah, but does the Warrens really yes, we talked about how much we love the Warrens, but
it doesn't have the elevator scene.
Okay. So I think that answers the question, right?
Yep, I think so.
Do you have big dick for the Warrens or something?
So our final rankings,
not that big, but it's there.
Our final rankings for now has Conjuring 2 at number 1, Conjuring at number 2, Annabelle Creation at number 3, The Nun at number 4, Annabelle at number 5, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It at number 6, Annabelle Comes Home at number 7, and The Curse of La Llorona still at the bottom. But guess what? Once The Nun 2 comes out on Blu-ray, digital, whatever, on a streaming service, so we don't have to pay for it, we're gonna
a couple of weeks.
Yes, I plan on seeing it in theaters, so we can do. I'm gonna try to do a fresh cut, but for a core episode, we're gonna wait until it's on a streaming service or whatever, and then we're going to add it to our Conjuring Universe series as we've been doing. But that is it for now for the Conjuring Universe, because next week is Spooktober. We are starting our Spooktober festivities. As you know, we all come around and we pick our movies for the month. And next week, I just got this bad boy yesterday. We are covering 2007's Trick or Treat from Michael Dougherty. I just picked up this beautiful Scream Factory Blu-ray. I can't wait to watch it. But that is our week 1 movie. That is Angela's pick. And I'm very excited because I think we've covered, after we did Trick or Treat, we've covered all of Michael Dougherty's movies. So we did Godzilla King of the Monsters and Krampus. So,
and I picked this one, and I haven't watched it yet.
It's very exciting.
I'm just excited to watch it.
You guys will have a good time with it, I think.
I think so.
I hope so.
So before we go, Darin, thank you so much for coming back on the show and almost having us record for another 3 fucking hours.
Told you. Fucking told you.
It's got to be because we enjoy each other's company, right?
We do. Yes. We talk. We all love to talk. It's fine.
I only love to talk to certain people.
Well, clearly it's usually,
us.
Sorry, not certain people.
No. I am super quiet. I can go all day at work without speaking to anybody other than hi, bye, the stuff that I need to talk to people about. But I feel of course, these two, it's
mandatory.
I've known you forever. Well, this one I have known. But I love when we get people in that I can just bounce back and forth.
Yes.
It just, coming from a group where we usually just have kid talk. Yes, I love my kids, but I love to have adult conversation.
Yes.
So this is great. I love it.
Well, I apologize that I count as adult conversation.
No. And it's not that I, can't joke around about, glory holes and stuff like that. No, I'm a kid at heart. I still think fart jokes are funny. We do them at work all the time. I'll just laugh. They'll make jokes and I'll laugh, and I'm just yeah, I'm here.
Well, I appreciate that. It's like you said, I don't know if we recorded it or not, but it's we've only done 1 episode, and that's why I comment. It feels like I've known you guys forever, and we can have these conversations, and it's hard to come by, right? Making a good haunted house scare movie. It's hard to find people on Twitter or X or whatever the hell this is called. It's great being able to find people of the same mind. And so, yeah, you guys definitely count as one of those. And we've got to have you on Nostalgiacast at some point. It's just a question of logistics. Yeah. And I want to be back before you guys get to episode 200. So
yes.
Yes. Well, we'll see. It was only 50 episodes, so we're still about more than 70 episodes till we get to 200. So we will definitely be getting you back on before that time comes.
I've got to be your Top Gun Maverick guy. I want to be your Top Gun
absolutely,
Maverick.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You were already in my mind when I was thinking whenever we get to that. You were coming on. That's going to be a 5-hour episode. Just pre-warning everybody. That will be a 5-hour episode, and
I am
let's split it into 8
or at least in 2 parts.
Yeah, it'll have to. Yeah. But yes, thank you so much for coming back. It's being able to have wonderful conversations with you on Twitter about all your wonderful opinions on movies and getting to see people's responses on them. And clearly I comment one time on somebody's on your post and I offend people and I'm just like, okay, I guess that's what I am now. But but no, it's an honor having you on and getting to talk movies.
It's an honor to be on.
Yeah, and way too long. It took way too long to get you back on. I'll take all the blame for it. But Darin, why don't you share with us? Why don't you share with us where everybody can find you and where they can find Nostalgiacast?
Okay, just the only place I'm at, which is why I hope it doesn't go away. I think there's another app. Are we allowed to say Blue Sky? Like, is that because we're not allowed to?
I'm not on there, but I don't know.
I'm on there just in case as a backup. But again, you can find me on there. You can find me on Twitter at DW Lundberg and Nostalgiacast. You'll see a picture of Kevin Costner, whatever, Field of Dreams, that kind of thing. Nostalgia, right? So again, we just finished up our. That's right. Finished up their 90s episode, 90s season. Check that out. Thank you guys for checking some of those out. Thanks everybody for listening. And then we'll pick up, I think we're going to start recording again next month. Just need a little bit of a break so I don't have to edit constantly. And then, we'll be back with some 70s films. So, please check us out.
What's a break? What does that even mean here? All right. Yeah. So all of Darin's links will be down in the description to find Nostalgiacast. And of course, you need to follow him on Twitter because it's always a wonderful time. You can find all of Dan and Angela's links down in the description. And of course, you can find us everywhere at Dissect That Film on all the social medias. We are literally on almost every social media out there. And if you type in Dissect That Film on any of the podcast services and on YouTube, if you're watching us right now, clearly you're on our YouTube channel. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe over there because I love reading your comments on our videos. And make sure to rate and review us on any of the podcast apps you use to listen to us. We're encroaching 20 on Spotify. So if you listen to us on Spotify, if you're listening from Spotify, make sure you leave us 5 stars. Dude, it's free. It doesn't cost you nothing. Same with Apple Podcasts. You can also leave a review over there. Good Pods is another app you can use to leave reviews and comments on individual episodes. It's really cool. And finally, I want to thank our patrons because we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/dissectthatfilm, where we have 2 wonderful tiers. We have a $1 tier where you can get episodes early and just support us, because we appreciate you very much. It goes that $1 goes a long way. And we also have a $5 tier called the Mark Wahlberg Book Club, which you get exclusive Patreon shows like our Monster Zone show, which we talk about kaiju movies and monster movies, hosted by Dan and Angela. And we also have a Tubi show called Out of the Tubi, where once a month we pick a random Tubi movie to discuss. And usually it's just a shit show and it's amazing. So you should definitely go over there and drop that $5 because it's well worth it. And plus you get all the wonderful perks from our $1 tier. And I want to thank our patrons right now. We have Nurtrovert. We have Robert Stewart. We have Rudy5453, Andrew Schoening, Eric Stein, The Baron's Hideout Podcast, Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming, Billy Joseph Jr., Dustin from the Flicks and Friends Podcast, Doom Generation, and Johnny Browning. So thank you all for all the support. And thank you for everybody who listens to the show. And thank you again to Darin Lundberg for being here once again.
Yes.
Listen, everybody, he'll be back very, very soon. All right. Until next time, I am Brett Parker. That is Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming. And that is Darin Lundberg from Nostalgiacast. And this has been the Dissect That Film Podcast, episode 125. We'll see you all again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
What's funnier than 24?
20.